I would like to open this council meeting with prayer, and Robert Mills will open the meeting for us.
Father in heaven, I'm grateful to be here tonight. We are thankful for the opportunity that we have to gather and as residents and elected officials, and pray for thy spirit to please be here with us as we discuss the items on the agenda and the items of our city. We ask you to please bless our mayor and city councilmen and women, and please help them to make good decisions and listen and feel the spirit and what's best to do for the city. We're grateful for the opportunity to serve and pray for those who serve us in all capacities. And we pray for these blessings and give thee thanks in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Robert. I'd like to invite Matt Moss up to lead us in the
Everybody get right? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Matt. Okay, moving on to C, consent agenda, approval of the October 2nd, 2024 City Council minutes. Number 2, resolution agreement with Mountain Land Associations of Governments for Nutrition Services. Number 3, ordinance amendments to the Payson City Code, Title 4, Public Utilities regarding water and sewer and wastewater. Number 4, ordinance amendments to the Payson City Code, Title 15, provisions for flood hazard reduction. Unless there's a discussion that needs to be had by the council, I'm ready for a motion.
Mayor, I have a couple questions,
You bet.
for staff, just a couple things on the senior meals with MAG. What's the requirements to get that, so? Does anybody know?
This is the meal for the year. I'm not sure. Are you talking the meals down for the seniors?
Right.
Yeah, for subsidized rate, you have to be over a certain age. And then they also, other people want to bring a guest, they can pay the additional amount of early.
Right, and that, as far as, we have an agreement with them, but does the city have to pay anything for that, or that's just what they do?
I think that part they provide for us.
Right. The other question I have is on the water and sewer connections for the businesses for each unit. I know that there's been a discussion, and so I'm all for that, but let's say that somebody comes in and builds a building and they don't put those in, but then they want to condominiumize it. That's what this is taking care of. So if they want to do that, then they have to put in something for each unit. What does it matter what goes into that unit, or does it? Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, that's the case, I'm ready for a motion.
Mayor, I motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, is there, you have, okay, it's been seconded, called for a roll call vote, starting with Council Hyatt.
Yes.
Council Moss.
Yes.
Council Rowley.
Yes.
Council Hewlett.
Yes.
Council Creighton.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries, thank you. Moving on to D petitions. Use the care as Mayor's Youth Recognition Award. Shelby.
Once your name is called, please come up to the podium and introduce yourself with your name, grade, and favorite part of school. From Mount Nebo Middle School, we have Gracie Diamond.
I'm Gracie Dimick, and I'm in 7th grade, and my favorite part of school is math.
Teacher said Gracie is responsible, kind, and a natural leader. She sets a great example for others. She practices her band music ahead of time and comes prepared for class. She is teachable and has a great attitude. They also said Gracie is an excellent student and person. She's always happy to be at school, and it carries over to her social interactions and academics. She is so willing to help with anything and shows respect to her peers. Great job, Gracie. From Payson Junior High, we have Alexa Little.
I'm Alexa Little. I'm in 8th grade, and my favorite part of school is science.
Alexa is known as someone who truly embodies the values they strive for at Payson Junior High and the core of their GRRR motto, grateful, respectful, responsible, and resilient. Alexa has been described by her teachers as amazing. She is not only an active participant in her class, but also someone who cheers on her fellow students, always offering support and kindness. Her positive attitude and compassion create a welcoming environment for everyone. Great job, Alexa.
Yes, yes, please. Okay. He's all ready to go. Next one is number 2, Yard of the Month, Halloween.
Okay, Mayor and Council, this is such a fun award to give. We asked residents to nominate yards of the month for Halloween, whoever decorated really well for Halloween, and we got a lot of nominations, and we had a tie. So we're giving away 2 awards today. The first one goes to Robert and Lynette Zeman. If they can come up, and we'll give this award they get. Is this?
Yes.
$100?
Yes.
$100 to Olson's Greenhouse. That's amazing. Thank you. And then the second one is to Dustin and how do you say your name? Mayu, John. And it was so fun to see all of your decorations. Thank you so much.
Thank you for participating in this activity, and we're gonna do just as a little teaser, we'll do the same thing for Christmas. You'll hear more about it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, number 3, on petitions, public forum. Anyone can speak to anything that's not on the city council agenda. Please be cognizant of your time and come on up and identify yourself and tell us what you'd like. Well, it's 3 minutes, but try to be as close to that as. Yes, you may just come to the ballpark.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Nelson. I lived in Payson for almost 3 years. I have 2 toddlers, and we spend a considerable amount of time at the Payson Library. And we're really grateful for all the work that the librarians do to promote early literacy in our community. About 6 months ago, my daughter asked to bring home one of the many educational kits that are on display in the children's library. She wanted to bring home one that was labeled Hawaii. The kits are filled with toys and books to teach kids about different topics. When we brought home the kit and cut the zip ties that locked it, we found among the various books and toys a book about transgenderism in children. I have brought a copy of the book today, if you would like to look at it. Most striking to me as a parent about this book was the author's note, which clarified that the 2 main characters in the book were based off of real transgender activists. I went and spoke to the head librarian about my concern that parents shouldn't have to be surprised by finding a children's book about transgender activism in an educational kit labeled Hawaii. She told me that she found the authors note to be borderline inappropriate for children, but that shouldn't be a cause for concern because a 4-year-old wouldn't read it. I found this to be a very bold statement from a professional who promotes, works really hard to promote early literacy in children. I've noticed that a common objection to parents who are concerned about the child appropriateness of media is to call them book banners and promoters of censorship. I want to make it very clear that my objective tonight is to ask for transparency. Censorship is the act of hiding, and transparency is the exact opposite. It's the act of uncovering and bringing to light. There are 2 methods that the library can use to avoid censoring material from the eyes of watchful parents and instead engage in transparency. These are, first, labeling the kit to show that it contains gender ideology, or second, putting this book in the main area of the children's library where parents can see the book and decide if they want it brought into their homes or not. I communicated extensively with the head librarian and the children's librarian about this, and I've been assured that this book will remain in the kit and that labeling the exterior is impossible because it's a violation of the American Library Association's Library Bill of Rights. However, the Payson Library labels other educational kits to warn patrons that they contain religious ideology. So why do they warn us about religious ideology, but not gender ideology? Transparently labeling this kit will allow parents who want to read their children this book the opportunity to clearly find it. And it will also help parents who want to teach their children about transgenderism in a different time or place the right to do so. Parents know when it's best to introduce this topic to their kids. And thank you so much for listening to my concern tonight. And thank you so much for all the work you do for our city. And may God bless you to do in your service.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. One thing I would like to and this is to make it too onerous, but if you would please hold your applause, because maybe somebody has an important one they feel threatened by that. So please, if you would do that, I appreciate it.
Before we move on, sorry, as part of my international studies to do international student teaching in the Polynesian culture, this story is actually based, it's part of their history and their heritage. So from that aspect, I can see why it was in the kit. I don't approve of it not being labeled. I want to emphasize that. But as part of the Polynesian culture, it's definitely something that's there and it's prevalent and has been for many, many years. And so just that's why it's probably in there, not necessarily for propaganda purposes, as educational purposes, but to label it, I don't foresee, I don't know the rules, but I'm in support of labeling. So
We're currently going through that process as well. Go ahead, please.
My name is Erica Ashby, and I'd like to start by clearly stating that the goal and that our request is not to ban or censor any book from the library. Our goal is inclusion and our goal is consistency. Our request is transparency. I also checked out the Hawaii Discovery Kit and brought it home to my children. The book in question included in that kit is not a book I would have knowingly chosen to bring into my home. Had the kit been labeled, I could have decided, as is my right. This felt deceptive, it felt sneaky, and it felt like not transparent. The library has refused to label this kit at many people's request, even though they have already clearly and boldly labeled 2 of the 4 Christmas kits as religious. Their refusal is not consistent with what has already been done. They have catered to those who would not enjoy religious material. The reality is gender ideology or anything dealing with that topic is just as polarizing as religion is. It necessitates disclosure. It warrants transparency. We have a right to informed consent when checking out material from the library. Much of that requires us to research and do our own due diligence, but the library has not made this easy. The library's own catalog does not provide any information on this book except the title and a photo of the kit's contents when this specific kit is searched, which is not like the other books found in the library, which they have descriptions and they're provided on their catalog. Informed consent would require us to search the catalog and then search every single item online. This is unreasonable and unrealistic. We also can't request for the zip ties to be cut each time we'd like to check out a kit, as suggested by the librarians. This again is not realistic. The fact that we and other families had this happen shows you it isn't, and the library knows this, hence the feeling of deception. I could choose to avoid all the kits and not check them out, as also suggested by the head librarian. But the library is funded by all of our tax dollars. As a resident and taxpayer of the city, my family and I also have the right to enjoy the resources at the library. This has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with the fact that as a parent, I reserve the right to decide what is appropriate for my children and what material enters my home. A kit where contents are not readily made clear or accessible, where no label is provided to disclose the inclusion of this material, robbed me of that right. There needs to be disclosure, there needs to be transparency.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody here from the library? I'm on the board. Okay. Is there a way when they check it out that it can have something right there, they check it out that says that? Yes.
And, you know, just in full disclosure too, this is an area where we want everybody to express their views. I don't know that we're cure it exactly tonight, but we just want to hear your views.
I was under the impression the books were checked out, and that's not the case. The book was actually inside of the kit. And so if a book is this borderline that's in the kit, it shouldn't be in the kit.
It could be on the shelf.
It can be on the shelf, that way a parent can look at it, flip through it. But if we're taking a kit home to have fun with the kids, it shouldn't be in the kit.
So is there another book?
Well, we can find another Hawaiian book, can't we? Yeah.
Sure.
Find a different Hawaiian Islander book to put in there.
And my name is Colton Ashby, and I'm continuing on my life statement. Our request is simple. It is inclusive and calls for the consistency of what the library has already done with Christmas kits. We ask that the kit be labeled to offer further full transparency, or the book be added to the main area of the children's section where it will no longer be hidden, but readily accessible, just as they've done with the other material of this nature found in the children's section. We also ask that moving forward, this become the standard included in their policy when it comes to any kits or bundles they have or will have at the library where contents aren't easily accessible. Clear disclosures of transparency of material to facilitate informed decisions. Currently, the library does not have a curation or circulation policy or any kind of policy guide available on the website. When asked about them, we're informed that they are in the process of updating them and that they'll be sent to the library board for approval. We ask that our requests are included and made clear in those policies so that this does not happen again. We've already tried communicating with the librarians that make the decisions over the labeling and inclusion of this material in the zip type kits, and we've been shut down and dismissed. That is why we've come to you tonight. It's not the library's job to determine what our children can or should read. Its job is to provide books and learning for all the residents that fund it in a way that ensures we as parents can still decide. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Sir. Thank you. You're fine. You're fine.
My name is James Nelson, for the record. Our address is 389 North, 200 East, just here in Payson down the road.
Okay.
My daughter has also brought home the Hawaii kit, and I'd like to present the council with a petition regarding the presence of this gender ideology kit in this kit. In less than 2 hours of petitioning random samples of people in the public here in Payson, we found that dozens of parents were opposed to their tax dollars supporting this kind of untransparent material found in the children's library. I'd like to present this with you today.
You bet. Thank you.
In the signatures, many business owners, including Mr. Gordon, who owns here Base Hardware, has signed it. And we all know, and I visited his store. I went to the store 4 times last Saturday working on a project, so we all love Base Hardware. As you know, we've been told that the librarians will not label this kit because the advice of the ALA, known as the American Library Association, states that it's part of their Bill of Rights. However, the library has also informed us that they do not receive, and they have confirmed this with us, that they don't receive funding from the ALA. The signatures of this petition belong to the taxpayers of paying citizens who fund the Payson Library, its books, and librarian salaries. Please help the citizens of Payson who financially own the library have their reasonable request respected by the librarians. Thanks so much for your time, and God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Carrie Bartholomew. I am the State Director of Moms for America. I'm here because I think that there is, I know that it's called clearing the catalog, and that's what's going on. So clearing the catalog is something that's really targeting especially rural areas and trying to get them to fundamentally change their values. So this is the reason why they do not want to be transparent with a label, something as simple as a sticker from Walmart. So I'm sure that there are parents who would gladly put a sticker on the book. No one is asking that they be taken out, because that's not fair, and that's, there are people who want to have those books, but there are also people who really don't. And that's the reason why people move to a place like Payson. They move here because they want those family values, and they want to be able to raise their children without a lot of influence that's forced on them. So what I have here are some resource cards that can let you know a little bit more about kind of how they clear the catalog. So that's Emily Drabinski. She's the head of the American Library Association. And she openly said that she is a clear Marxist with the goal of transforming the world. Those are her policies. And I'm literally quoting her. And exposing children to something that could cause them harm is a problem. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with things like the CAS review or other gender reports, but there's a lot that shows that this is suggesting to kids. And parents can do it if they want to, but other parents should have a right not to. Would you guys like a card?
Give one to our city attorney and city manager. That'd be great.
Sure.
Appreciate you.
May I ask you a question? Is her position federal?
No,
Is it in Utah?
she's the president of the American Library Association.
So
But she has a lot of,
So it is a national level. It is a national.
yeah, so, but not part of the government.
Sorry.
Hello. I am Eric Memphis. I've been a resident of Payson for 3 years now. I haven't really prepared anything, but I'm here in support of what has already been talked about with the books in the library. I myself have 3 kids, 10, 8, and 6. My 6-year-old is on a 3rd or 4th grade reading level. He's reading small chapter books already. So the comment that a child would not read this book or read that page, he'd probably be able to read it without any problems. Kids are at different levels of reading, so that I don't agree with that argument from the librarian. We all know how malleable our kids' minds are. My 2 youngest, they still believe in Santa. They still believe in the tooth fairy. It's not hard to convince a kid that, or plant a seed in their mind that something is real, or this is how things are supposed to be. And so it's up to us as the adults, as the parents, to protect the innocence of our kids. And that's just all I wanted to share.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Ma'am?
I'm sorry, there are a few of us, but my
That's
name is
okay.
Krista Yowsey, and I have not personally checked out that kit. And first off, I've been a resident for almost 10 years now, and I love Payson. And I tell all my Salt Lake County family and friends that I love Payson Library, even though they can check out from all over their county. I love Payson Library, and so this is definitely not a diss on the library at all. But I have 5 kids, and for the point of this specific book, with it having no description or anything, I would not know what the book is about if my, and so I think like putting a label on the books, because my understanding is there are more than just that book
with LGBTQ content in it in the children's library. And I just want to be able to know when I want to talk to my kids about it and how. I think it's something that parents should talk to their kids about in the way that they choose and when and how. And so to have 5 kids that I'm taking to the library at one time and they're all picking out books, I just don't think it's realistic for me to have to research every single book. And what if that content is in there, I would like to know with a clear label before I bring everything home with me. And I know as a parent, I need to do research and all of that, but since the library is there and staffed to give us resources, I would just ask that one little thing from them. And I don't think that is that big of an ask as a parent. And so I just wanted to share that. I didn't personally have that experience, but we go to the library a lot. And if these books are going to be brought in, I would love to just be able to clearly see it. And not that I need it to be gone. I just would like to be able to know for my own family and all of my kids. So thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Hi, my name is Cassandra Hedelius. I live here in Payson, and my 2, 4, 6, and 8-year-old children love the library. Regardless of what conditions were like in Hawaii traditionally, conditions today are much different, medically and socially much different and much more dangerous for children. These books implant a powerful and volatile idea into children's minds. The idea of transgenderism, that my body is wrong and has to be medically altered in order to match my mind, that is powerful and volatile and has consequences that we do not understand. I know that we do not understand it because no one does. Researchers do not understand it. Advocates are suppressing research, showing that they do not understand it. We now have more than a decade worth of peer-reviewed studies on pediatric gender medicine, and every in-depth review of that research has concluded that we do not understand these interventions and this phenomenon at large of children thinking that their bodies do not match their minds. Britain's National Health Service spent 4 years on an in-depth review, the CAS review that she mentioned, of the research. That review concluded that published studies are overwhelmingly poor quality according to evidence-based medicine study standards. There is not enough good evidence for doctors to make decisions or for families to make informed choices. Doctors cannot reliably diagnose whether a child's transgenderism is lasting or only temporary. The evidence for puberty blockers is weak. We don't understand their effects on cognitive and psychosocial development. There is insufficient evidence to safely use cross-sex hormones on minors. No high-quality evidence shows that they improve mental health or suicidality. No conclusions can be drawn about the hormone's effect on psychosocial health, cognitive development, or fertility. We do not understand their effects on growth, cardiometabolic, and bone health. We do not have good follow-up data to understand long-term outcomes, which is unconscionable when children are being subjected to these life-altering interventions. All of that is from the British report. A similar review in Finland found basically the same thing. A similar review in Sweden found the same thing. A similar review in Florida found the same. Moreover, the activist World Professional Association for Transgender Health, called WPATH, commissioned a similar review by researchers at Johns Hopkins University. WPATH refused to publish the results because the results undercut their position. The Hopkins researchers protested this illegitimate manipulation of the research process. Moreover, WPATH claims to merely follow the evidence, but changed its guidelines under pressure from a transgender federal official. Moreover, the New York Times reported that activist medical researchers have just concluded a large federally funded study hoping to provide better evidence. They are refusing to publish the results. There is no good evidence for subjecting children to these interventions, and activists are manipulating the research. Therefore, the library should not be planting this powerful, volatile idea into children's minds because they do not understand these issues. We do not understand them. And the librarians will not be there to clean up the mess when the diagnosis and the treatment go wrong. Please ask them to be transparent, to label the books, don't sneak them into unrelated kits. Parents have to be the ones to handle this, not librarians.
Thank you.
Thank you. Obviously, we are very concerned, as you are, of the society that we live in. So appreciate your comments very much. Yeah, but let me just do one more thing here before we do that. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this subject that has different information than what we've already heard. I don't want to impinge your ability to speak, but we've heard a lot. If it's something different, then we'd be glad to hear from you.
Okay. This is right down my alley. I am a librarian and I'm on the library board. And when I read about this, the first time I heard about this was on Facebook. And, I am a member of ULA. I'm not a member of ALA. But I went to the ULA conference this past year and it was completely biased and skewed. Against conservatives. I was frustrated. And the leaders of these organizations have taken advantage of the public trust and in indoctrinating and manipulating this information into libraries to target children. They perpetuate the incorrect attacks of conservatives to want to ban books. That's not at all what we're about. We're about transparency. There's a board meeting on the 13th at the library, a library board meeting. We will be discussing this. Yes, we can label them. And there are different levels of the LGBTQ gender ideology books, just like there's different levels of romance or horror or anything. But I do think that there should be labels and they can label them. Because everyone has their particular preferred genre. I prefer not to read horror books. Some people do. We should have labels on there knowing what these books are. And children's books are typically just grouped into the label of children's books. There isn't really anything further. There might be fiction or nonfiction, but I think it's completely doable to at least label them. And so we'll be talking about that for sure. And you guys have been heard and thank you for all your comments.
That I would like to echo that. It's not an issue that is easily solved, but it can be solved. And we won't solve it here tonight, but we have a promise that we will solve it.
Thank you for your comments and bringing it to our attention. Thank you.
Anyone else on another subject? Come on up. Ooh, we got two of you, one
That's a race.
after the other. Yes.
My name is Teresa Halley, and I'm the president of the Daughters of Utah Pioneers Company for the towns of Payson and Green. And we have been working on this particular subject since from 2021. It's been an ongoing project. We've been trying to save this building, as you see here on the picture, which is the old seminary building, which many citizens of this town went to. It was later Family History Center, and it has remained empty since September of 22. And I received inspiration that we needed a new museum for our city to incorporate pioneer artifacts that started out settling this town, this city. I'm personally involved because my great-great-great-grandfather was James Pace, and he founded the city of Payson. I have lived here for 15 years, and I've become deeply involved in the community. We have approached the owners of the lot, which happens to be the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We have asked, first of all, that it be leased we could lease the building. And secondly, if they didn't want to lease it, that they could gift it to us so we could work with the building. We are a nonprofit organization. We do not have the funds to even begin to purchase it. So I had to first go through the International Society of Daughters of Utah Pioneers and find out from them what other communities have done to acquire building for their artifacts. Most of these were done previously in way years past when it was easy to lease a building or to give a building away. Considering the value of real estate at this time, the prices have gone up significantly in the value of the property. So we got approval through the church historical department through MOU that we do indeed have a historical building. It is over 100 years old. Birthday was in 2024. And that building can be protected by the State Historical Society as a 100-year-old marker and be protected from demolition because of that. We don't want it to just sit on the corner and do nothing. So that's why we are trying to get this building. We have sent out a lot of petitions. We have hundreds of signatures from citizens in the city and surrounding areas to save this building. Hence, that's why we have posters in the city building and banks and various buildings like this. We have had a professional do our advertising brochure, and we have put this out. However, we have been turned down by the real estate department of the church because they want to have the money. They simply want to demolish the building and not have to worry about it anymore. I have been working for the last 2 years plus trying to get some kind of an agreement with them. At this point, I received a call on Monday from the historical department, whose hands are tied because of the real estate. So my conversation in them, I asked, have you come up finally with a value on this property? The property is at 590 Main Street, just kind of down by the swimming pool. It's this kind of curved building. One of the reasons for saving this building is it has some artistic work on the outside from Lucky Pickering, who is a famous artist from our city. We have very few of his artworks left because they've been distributed throughout the United States or in museums that are not displaying his work at this time. The architect, the sculpturing on the top of the curved part of the building is sculpturing that he did. It's the same as what's on his home, which is also here in Payson, and various other artifacts. The building is in relatively good shape. It's been appraised and assessed, has new bathrooms, new windows. It has a ramp for the handicapped people to be able to access it. Right now, our collection is here in the city building in a space of about maybe 2 office buildings, maybe 1. I don't know how big their offices are. And we have a lot of people who would like to donate relics from their relatives, but we have nowhere to put them. We have no way to have the public come in and see this, or a school group, because we don't have enough room there. So we're trying to acquire this building for the community as well as educational purposes. The quote they put on that lot as of Monday when I first heard this, that acreage is 0.16 of an acre. So total of land and building, 1,700 square feet, not very big. They are asking $375,000 for someone to buy the property. We realize as a city that that's a lot of money for a little thing like that. So I said, what other alternative do we have at this point? I was quoted, well, if you could get some support from a higher source, they might be willing to just say bono gifted, which is what we would hope for. We will continue to work. We need a little more time maybe on your agenda that we could discuss some of the other things that have gone on behind the scenes, that we could acquire this building, a little more pressure maybe from the city, from whoever supporters that we could get. We have a separate fund in the bank, Zion's Bank, that is for our museum fund where people can donate money, which is approximately a little bit over $2,000 at this point. This sign is a little battered because we appear in Onion Days and our June City Days. We've been in a few rainstorms and windstorms there, so it's a little battered. But we've had support from our banks and people putting our signs in their buildings to let the public be aware of this building. So in conclusion, I would just like to see if we could have a little more time to see what resources we could get. or what support we could get from higher authorities. And I would like to introduce one person from my board. Her name is Terry Ann Harward. She worked with Provo City when they were acquiring the old academy from BYU to turn into a library. She's very familiar with working between city and state and government and church to do the correlation that it would take between two organizations. I would just like her to speak just for a couple of minutes.
You've taken quite a little bit of time.
Okay, I'm done talking, but just so she can.
But if you can make
just
your
a couple of
comments real quick, please, don't, just come up in front, real quick. Appreciate your comments. I'm not trying to cut you off.
Okay, I know.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you for hearing me. Terry Ann Harward from Payson, Utah. I did work with the Academy Library. I was a volunteer on their board at the time. And I was the chair for the Get Out the Vote for the GEO bond that was passed for the Academy Library, which allowed it to move forward. And it was hired by the library. I was the assistant to the director, the executive director, and spent a lot of time working on that building. I have wonderful stories. But to me, you have a building right down your historic Main Street that would be perfect for a museum to show people what is the history of your Payson people. It's right down your historic Main Street. It's right there. And it's a beautiful building for what it would be for a DUP museum.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me know.
Thank you. It's certainly something that we will be glad to look into. We've tried some in the past and haven't had too much luck, so we'll take a look at it.
Hello, I'm Kevin Stinson. I'm actually just requesting a little bit of time on action item number 2. It's a public hearing and I just want to ask time at that time.
Yes, please come up with that time.
There is not a public hearing on that item.
Oh, come on up then and then do it, Kevin. Come on up. I thought it was a public hearing.
Public hearing.
Okay, that's fine. Don't want to cut you off.
Appreciate your time. So this is the
Kevin Stinson, right?
Kevin Stinson, yeah. So this is a project that is happening by the Payson fruit growers. Developers are trying to put in some apartment complexes, mixed use. They want to change it to a mixed use overlay. I actually request my wife to join me up here because my eyes aren't as good as they used to be.
Come on up
to read and everything looks better.
Please be cognizant of the time.
So I just have 3 points I want to point out. One is I just want to read a couple of articles that just happened recently on KSL. So here's the first one. I just highlighted a couple of points and just have her read these out. This is about an explosion in the Lehigh apartment. So if you could read that.
Just the highlight.
Right, just the highlight. So they found out there was an explosion. And the cause of it was somebody had a mental health episode. They didn't go into detail.
Explosion that injured 2 people, evacuation of 90 families from the Lehigh apartment complex. The explosion triggered the sprinkler system inside the couple's apartment, which damaged the units directly below the explosion site. Building will remain evacuated until a fire suppression system is restored.
So there's 90 people that are out of a home until that's restored. This is another one. This is from Ogden, Ogden City. They just changed some of their policies on how they develop their city, and it had some really good points that I wanted to point out. So if you wouldn't mind reading it.
Ogden officials have approved a zoning tweak to prevent apartment development along some of the city's busiest corridors as leaders rethink how the city should grow and evolve. Numerous apartment and townhome developments have taken shape in recent years along busy roadways, zoned primarily for commercial development. The aim is to shift apartment development away from the busiest traffic corridors to areas that have better walkability, parks and trails. Lack of housing has been a fierce topic of debate in locals across Utah, not just Ogden. But with more and more apartment buildings taking shape in Ogden, Naldosky in June proposed the change approved by the city council aiming to boost focus on single-family home development. General commercial zones are not designed to accommodate apartment living and lack features such as parks, trails, schools, safe bike routes, quality transit stops, unique gathering spots needed to create quality neighborhoods. Reads a city staff report on the issue. Developing housing in commercial areas, it went on, could hamper the availability of land for commercial development. It's like I said about getting the right housing in the right place, Riley said. Demand may be sufficient now for housing along busy roads, but if there's ever a downturn in the economy, that's going to be the first housing that goes down. We don't want to end up in an oversupply of the wrong types of housing in the wrong place that just deteriorates and causes other problems with communities. We're doing fine with multifamily. Riley told PSL it's a single family where we need to put more attention. We want to make sure we're creating opportunities for folks who want single family homes.
So last point I want to make is this area is zoned for commercial. And if we turn all of our commercial to residential, we're gonna be not liking that more and more in the future. I just came a couple weeks ago from an APA, all planners meeting, conference that was held just in Provo, from all over Utah. They had a man come and speak. He was from, UCLA, Shane Phillips, and he had an amazing presentation that was titled The Affordable City, and I'd be willing to share that presentation with you at another time, but there's one sheet on that I wanted to point out. He talked about the way, he warned, don't be like California. He said, we have messed up, don't do what we have done, and Utah is not there yet, but you're heading that way. And he said, I want to point out things that you could do differently. And one of them, he said, is right now the tendency is to build all these low-income housings because that's what's needed. He said, that's not the way to do this. He said, the best way to do it, and he said, there's actually been multiple studies, and this is a study that's been done in the Journal of Urban Economics, the one that he referenced here. He said, there's multiple studies. He said, the best way to do it is build the upper income. He classified people in 5 tiers of where they are economically. And he said, if those upper economic people build a higher level home, they're going to leave their other home and move up. Then the next class is going to say, okay, I want to move up in my life. I want to be a better person. I'm going to move up to the next one and the next one, and the next one, so forth, until you now have a lower income home that is now available because people are moving up. And it creates people with a desire to move up and become better in life instead of tons of these low income homes, which, as this article pointed out, do cause many problems when there's an economic downturn. Talk to any police officer, that's where the majority of their calls are at. So I would encourage you, please do not change this from commercial. Let's keep our commercial. Let's not build so many of these low income housing. Let's work on more of the higher economic housing that are going to help Payson grow to the Payson that we want it to be.
Thank you, Kenny.
And I can leave this for further as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, any other of you want to come up and address us? It's public. Forum. Not seeing any. Is there anyone online? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public forum and we'll move on to staff reports. Any staff like to address it?
I think we've got someone unmuted there, just barely. Chad, did you want to speak?
Yeah, Mayor, I appreciate the opportunity to just. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I didn't catch the name of that gentleman and his wife that just shared that, but I agree with their thoughts.
You could identify yourself for the recorder.
Yeah, Chad Rowley, manager of Payson for Growers. You know,
Okay.
I guess we respect that everyone has their property rights, what they do with them, but we've just known for a long time that was zone commercial, and that helps, you know. I guess if the zone gets changed, and we try to be a good neighbor, and we're not always perfect there, and some of the noise and some of the lights and some of the sounds or smells or whatever come, we've been able to work with our neighbors, but to put in a whole bunch of homes right next door creates a little bit of a opportunity for opportunities. I'm not saying it would be, but it could be. And so we agree with the gentleman and his wife that just spoke, and hope that we don't change that zoning isn't changed. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, again, we'll go ahead and unless there's someone else who likes to come up, close the public forum. Okay, moving on to staff reports. Any staff who would like to address the council on the citizens?
On October 26th, we had our National Drug Take Back Day. Again, we do that once in the fall and once in the spring. And this time, we collected 67 pounds of drugs that were taken to the DEA and were incinerated. So that's good, so that you just be safer. So, yeah.
Those are the medical prescriptions from people's homes, right?
Yep,
That they
yeah.
put in. Wonderful.
So anybody could come and drop off their unused prescription drugs, whether they were opioids or blood pressure medication, whatever they had at home, and we had an officer take them up to the DEA where they got rid of it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Shelby.
Any other staff? If not, we'll move on to council reports, and we'll start with Council Christensen.
I'm good today, thanks.
Okay, good. Council Hill.
Yeah, just the ribbon cutting for the historic downtown Payson, it was fabulous. Thank the city council for approving funds for that. And I had lots of great comments that night, and people really enjoy it, and the businesses seemed to really enjoy it. And it was kind of fun to see a lot of businesses cleaning up, painting and doing things and taking pride in the downtown, which I haven't seen for quite a while. So we had a great, and thank the staff for helping put that together, and also the 3 young women from the ALC that helped advertise and put this whole program together. So anyway, it was a great event. Thank you, everybody.
Early.
Thank you, Mayor. So grateful. They all left, and I'm so grateful for our good youth that are doing well, and that we take the time to recognize them, their future. And I'm thankful for those that take care of their yards, and Councilor Moss that can present them with that opportunity. That seems silly, but when we each take pride in our own little pieces of ground, it elevates our entire city. So I'm thankful for those that take care of that. I want to echo Councilor Hewlett's remarks on the Main Street. Much of that was handled by some students at the ALC, and they did so very good. They took that and ran with it and organized it. I was so impressed. Great turnout. The businesses did well. Got some free publicity out of that. I spent some time with Chief Bishop and Kathy over the last couple of weeks. I'm thankful for them and their expertise in their departments. I'm striving to get to know the budget better so I can understand that. So Kathy, thank you for all the help you're rendering me in that as I strive to understand our debt and our revenue income. And Chief, thank you for the culture you've cultivated in the police department. We have wonderful officers and a wonderful chief. Thank you. I had a resident reach out to me. I want to push this along to the next phase and see what staff thinks. The bear cage at the park. We want a real bear inside of the bear cage. I'm gonna keep asking. There's as our city gets bigger, there's more and more kids hanging out on it. I hung out on it as a kid, wondering. I had a resident reach out to me, wondering if it's time to put railing around the roof of that bear cage. There's one side of it that's quite high up, and there's always kids hanging out on it, my own included. And so if we could pass that on to the Parks Department just to see if they've ever looked at that, or if that would be prudent or wise, I think it'd be worth looking into. And thanks to all the election workers that pulled a long night last night, best possible outcome. So thank you.
Folks out in the foyer, could you move off the side a little bit? Could you ask them to move off the side so I can hear them talking? Just off to the side so we can't close those doors. Thank you, appreciate it very much. I don't usually take advantage of my ability to do a council report, but I am this time. I wrote in my my mayor's message today that I had a full heart, which I do. Number one thing is, as citizens of the United States and the state of Utah, we have the ability to vote in our elections, and whether your candidate made it or not, we have that freedom, and I'm very, very thankful for that freedom. And in order to protect that freedom, we need to use it. And so, if any of you did not take advantage of it, I highly encourage you to do that. I hope all of you did. The other one that is on my mind is I was able to attend a Veterans Day program at the American Preparatory Academy. We have a wonderful heritage of people that serve in our military service. It always amazes me when I sit down and listen to all the stories of men and women that come from our communities and have served in multiple conflicts and risked their life and limb to help us live free. So I couldn't help but mention that. I'm very, very thankful for them and their families that endure hardship and sacrifice. So I just wanted to mention that, and hope all of us are proud of our country, our state, and our city. Thank you.
Well said, Mayor, and I agree with everything you just said, and I want to echo what they said about Main Street. It was so exciting, and the turnout was amazing, and Main Street looks beautiful, and it was a privilege to meet a lot of the business owners that I hadn't previously, and I'm excited to see what happens on Main Street. More businesses, more beautification. It's got an optimistic future, more so now than it did before. I'd also like to say something about the library. Being on the library board, I work with amazing people. I have not had the opportunity to talk to them about this issue of the gender ideology books, but I assure you that we will fix the problem. And also, please still come support our library. I know that they want to work to keep the trust of the community, and we'll work to keep that trust. And we have a lot of fun activities coming up. I also just want to do my normal gratitude shout out to the staff of the city. We have amazing people working at the city, and I am honored to work with all of you. That's all I have to say.
And I just say ditto. I don't have anything else.
Thank you, Teresa. Okay, moving on to E, action items, public hearing / ordinance, CW and CW Limited Partnership disconnect at approximately 2853 West, 790 South, consisting of 107.98 acres. Michael, you have a presentation for us.
I do. Looks like Kim has to give me authorization to share this. You can see that. I'm going to zoom into the area that's in question here. So this road right here, where my cursor is 790 South. And I believe 2400 West, 2500 West here. So it would be the entirety of this field area, as well as these few homes here that would be included in the municipal disconnect. So this gives you a little bit better idea from the county parcel map of the area that it would be part of this. Staff have met with the applicant sponsor on this. We met with them prior as they considered doing a subdivision here and some zone changes, and ultimately the applicant decided to withdraw that application because they felt as if they weren't going to get what they desired for the property here, and so they felt as if a municipal disconnection would serve them best. So some possible findings that the council could consider are here. Public infrastructure, utility infrastructure is untimely at this time to be brought to the area. Those are some estimates there for water, sewer, and pressurized irrigation to be brought to the site here. This would only service at that time approximately 19 homes for his proposed development and whatever would be in that immediate vicinity. The applicant would need to, whether he stays within the city or was to go out of the city, his development would therefore require septic systems and private wells. There have been discussions, as I mentioned before, going to the planning commission to talk about zone changes and the like, and those land use controls. The applicant did feel as if they were in their favor, I guess, especially when it came to potential requests for dedications of property for future roads and the like. We talked a little bit about public utilities, but power infrastructure is coming to the area, whether or not it is disconnected or stays in the city. So it will be coming there shortly. And then last of all, we feel as if staff feels as if utility infrastructure installation would be better addressed under a future annexation request of this area. And therefore, we could ask of those things that we would most want if and when that were to happen. So with that said, staff is favorable of a municipal disconnection to those properties that have been identified there. So any comments for me or other staff?
I'd love to weigh in on this just a little bit. I worry that disconnecting it, the areas around it will be impeded from being able to move forward, which would really stop the progress going out that way. I'm getting a little concerned about the amount of sewage in West Mountain that's getting dumped into the aquifers. I don't know if there's ever been a study on that to where our threshold is. I know that some communities in Utah have reached that threshold and now have $1,000 sewer bills because they had to bypass that and fix that problem. And I worry about that overall. Looking at it, has it ever been looked at as maybe a small centralized facility out there that would be easy to connect to in the future and kind of leave it as planned to be part of the town? My understanding is they're small lots. Are they 5 acres or 2 1/4 acres? Or
5 1/4 acres.
5 1/4 acre lots is what they want to divide them up into, which I mean is really what the people out there want and the direction it's headed. I just wonder if we could still plan maybe down the future that if you set it up and master planned it in 20 years, we could do 2 1/2 acre lots out there and cut everyone in half and have equity that way. I don't know. That's just my thought. I hate to slam a door on something without all of that kind of information. You know, a central well and then a central septic system. And then all the piping would be in there ready to go, but I don't know. It's just me.
But I would like to suggest before we go into a council discussion, if we could open this a public hearing, then with the council discussion and answer some staff's, we could ask staff some questions as well. So if the council would like to, we can open this. Did you have something you want to say, Michael?
No.
Okay.
Yes, I have 2 questions about the proposal before you open that. And the applicants here.
Okay.
The 2 houses, will those lots be expanded to meet 5 1/4 acre lots? Or are they gonna stay small and the county's offering you a zoning variance for those 2 homes?
grandfathered in the county's working in the.
Okay, so those will stay, are they 1 acre?
Chris, would you come up real quick so we can make sure these comments are recorded? Thank you.
I'm not sure. I'm trying to think what size is your lot?
We're 1 and the one next to us is 6. Wait,
1/6.
Yeah.
One's good.
Okay. And you purchased the 1 home.
Yeah.
And it's,
They live in the other.
okay. Okay, so those lots will stay the same, and those homes currently have a well and a septic tank,
Yes.
each one. Yeah, okay.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. If we could go ahead and open this public hearing by motion, we can do that and then have a discussion later.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll open this public hearing. Please step to the mic if you have some comments for us and give us your name and let us know where you live and speak clearly and whether you agree or disagree with the information that we've been presented to by the staff, and please don't repeat previous information. Not seeing anybody that wants to take advantage of this public hearing.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Fine.
No, we are the house. Oh, thank you, Erica here. We do own the 1 acre lot, and we love living in West Mountain. That's the whole reason we moved out there. Our family loves it. They have chores. So we are very much so in favor of this disconnection, going back to county. So just wanted to say that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, not seeing anyone, I'll accept a motion to close the public hearing.
Mayor, I motion that we close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Council discussion, please.
Yes, and this, I hate to see any of this land turned into houses, whether it's 5 acre lots or 1 acre lots, to be honest with you. I understand the reality that you can't buy something like this and farm it, but man, that's a sweet piece of dirt that we'll never get back. I hate to see it leave the city as well. I wonder if there would be a way that we could do water and power and still do septic tanks for the home. My big concern is to have 19 extra wells drilled into that aquifer right there. My family previously last summer spent a considerable amount of money lowering our well pump in a subdivision that's adjacent to this one. We had to lower it several feet, and that cost thousands of dollars because it was pumping air. It dried up because all the homes around us are taking the water. And yeah, these 5 acre lots, it's just a subdivision in the middle of farmland, and they use a lot of water. There's several that water literally weeds to keep their water shares, and that's my concern. That's my hang up at this. Obviously to go back to the county is the easiest and cheapest way to develop this. In my opinion, this parcel of land is not ready to be developed, but the applicant's finding a way to do it one way or another. And if it is going to happen the way it is, I guess it's fine to do it in the county, because if the developer can't help us with some of those costs to run some of those utilities, it's not feasible for the city financially to take care of 19 homes for snowplow, road repair, all of those things. So this is a tricky item.
Council, anyone else?
Yeah, Chris, I have a couple of questions for you. One is, do you have well rights for those 19 lots? Okay. The other is, you're planning on getting with the county and developing these as 5 acre lots, right? 5 or 30 acre lots. Okay. Here's the thing I'm thinking about, and I don't have an answer to it, and I know there's the property rights, and I'm fine with that. I know the city staff's worked on this for a long time. A couple of things, one I'm thinking about, it's going to be developed in 5 1/4 acre lots, and it'd be nice to have those 5 1/4 acre lots in Payson versus the county, because they're going to be there anyway. And I know our ordinance don't allow that now, and we'd have to do some changes, and so if they're gonna be there anyway, and eventually this is gonna be coming to Payson, and then we're gonna have to deal with it, the same thing, but it'll already be there. We don't have any say where the roads might be and things like that. So that's one of the challenges I have. And I don't have a problem de-annexing if that's really what you want, but it seems like maybe at some point in time, I don't think we had a work session on this to kind of just go through some of the iterations of how this might affect the city, because, yeah, definitely we aren't gonna put out there water and sewer and things like that for 19 lots, but you're gonna be able to do it anyway in the county. So I don't know what the difference is in the county or the city if you're gonna have wells and septic tanks. It's gonna be the exact same thing. So just some thoughts I have is, you know, moving forward, if there's other places out there that want to do this type of thing. And I don't have an answer, but it's just some thoughts. So.
Sean, how far away is power from that parcel?
It's a little ways.
Is it?
We have power to where Jeff Hyatt's is, but, Ariel is looking at doing this soccer facility.
Yeah.
And bringing power, down Utah Avenue.
Sean, same thing. Would you come up to the?
Oh.
Sorry, I make everybody come to the microphone. It's not my intention.
So, where Teresa's house is, Ariel's trying to get power to that point, right there, right in front of, where she lives in that field that, so right north of that. But we're planning on also coming over to Jeff Hyatt's, which is down below, and getting power there, because we have that Red Bridge area. We're just trying to get, what keeps happening is Red Bridge area keeps changing the way they're doing the roads and stuff. And so we're like, keep adjusting around, and we just need some certainty there, but I think within a short period of time, definitely we're gonna have power there. And I think Ariel's looking at getting easements and things right now to do that, so.
Are we commercial out there now? What he wants to put in, that's commercial.
Is it? I don't know.
Yeah, he wants to put in.
It would be like a rec center, which is approved in the A5 zone, which is what it is.
Okay, I thought we already approved that. That doesn't go along with the plan that we've made.
Are you talking about the Spring Creek plan?
Whatever the plan is, the master plan that we did out there.
Okay. I was trying not to get up, but I think it's really important. And I just want to first of all say thank you to the applicant. We've had really good discussion on this for a long time. And maybe Councilmember Hyatt, to answer your point, first of all, we do have a plan that took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and a lot of my life. And it's really good. That plan is really, really good. And that particular use that Mr. Martinez is proposing is a use that could be considered in the plan, but we also have to consider what is currently zoned, what the permissions of that property currently allow without a zone change or anything like that. And that use that he's proposing, which is not even relative to this conversation right now, but just to answer your question, there's a development ability on that property with what he's proposing, and that's what he's choosing at this time to move forward with. I just want to add a little bit of additional context to this conversation because we've had the same questions and we've had the same concerns and comments and how do we do this? And when Mr. Wall first approached us, we thought, okay, we have a plan for this area, right? And what he's necessarily wanting to do right now doesn't fit with that plan, but we could divine a way to make it work. And we talked to him about that. We talked to the planning commission about that. We talked to a few council members about that. And it would essentially involve what you exactly said, that we would zone it according to our plan, but it would develop according to 5 1/4 acre lots. But we would need space for future roads, and we would make sure that power would need to come out, and we had asked for water to be able to come out. And really, at the end of the day, the applicant, that's a huge expense and a development pattern that he wasn't really interested in as far as we've been communicated with. And so at that point, it was the situation of, okay, well, if county development is really the development pattern that the owner of the property wants to pursue, what other options are there? And the option of disconnecting from the city would allow that county development to occur.
With the anticipation, oh, sorry.
Why can't we allow that as in that agricultural 5A holding zone?
So let me just answer that question with this one. So, the way that the property is laid out, you'll notice that the property is bordered on 3 sides by roads. So 790 south, 2400 on the east side, and then 29 or 5600. I know it's 5600 west on the west side. So the applicant was able to create a layout that allowed for kind of long, thin lots that accomplished 5¼ acres, but that would have, each of them would have access to a road. And so if you think about the development pattern of what that would entail, you would have homes basically along the perimeter of that property currently, as it would develop at 5¼ and leaving the middle essentially untouched. So future development, which we anticipate will happen, 5¼ acre lots have historically, we've always had requests to subdivide them. And so that would allow in the future, through an annexation agreement, that future development would need to be served by city utilities. And so that annexation petition in the future would allow us as a city to have a little bit more strength in requesting utilities be extended out in that area and be able to implement the plans that we have for it. Councilmember Christensen, to your point, we could divine a way absolutely to allow that type of development. My question is, if the utilities are not being brought at this time, will it be more difficult if it's already in the city and then we're trying to get those utilities out through future requests and working with applicants and working with more applicants to do that, if it's already in the city and starting to develop, rather than a group of people are in the county requesting to become annexed into our city, and then we have the ability to make requests to upgrade our system. So that's the whole thought process of several months in a nutshell.
So Robert, just going back to what you answered about that. So wouldn't we have the same ability if somebody wanted to come in and subdivide this into smaller lots? We still should have the same ability as if they were annexed into the city. Wouldn't we have that?
Theoretically, yes. I mean, through a zone changes of the
Because we'd have to have zone change to go from A5 to something else.
I think the other thing is that the applicant has expressed a desire for those lots to remain in Greenbelt, which even if they were in the city, they could still do that. But again, that type of development is more consistent with county development than what we have currently in our city.
The Hyatt Woods, are they in the city?
They are.
Well, they're Greenbelt.
You can be Greenbelt.
You can be Greenbelt in the city, absolutely.
They changed stuff when they did that. I thought about that a lot, and I don't really agree with that, what we did there. But also, I know you have to have 250 feet on the road, and I'm pretty sure UDOT is not gonna let you go out on that road anymore. Have you checked into that?
I think they will, yeah.
And they're okay with it?
They told me I have to get the plan going before they can approve anything, but I've talked to them about it.
Okay. And you have the 250 feet per lot?
Yeah.
Okay.
What we did when we started this, I wanted to keep it in the city. So we went through designing it. We actually have the roads for the Spring Creek. We can put easement through on each lot. Talked to the power company, Brad Crow. And we had kind of made an estimate what it cost me to bring it from across the railroad and by Hyatt's, bring it around, and from the soccer. I already talked to the guy that's trying to do the soccer field. We made a little agreement if he did it, that I could get on with him. But then, it just seemed like people didn't want it, but they didn't want to break up the city. I mean, they didn't want it in the city and broke up into 5-acre lots. So that's when I changed it to the county. That's when I
I
tried.
think the thing that we have a problem with is the 5¼ acres, how many people really use their
5 acres. And it's like he said, it's a waste of water. It is really a waste of water. Like if you took that whole area of everybody's property and you planted trees. I mean, that's worth it because it really is agriculture. But what I've noticed from living out there is most people who have 5 1/4, it's weeds. You have a few, I see beautiful, beautiful lots up there on that southwest mountain, you know, with a ton of grass and a ton of bushes and flowers. I also know how much water they're using, which is a ton to keep it beautiful, but we live in a desert. You know that, I know that, we all know that. That's the one thing that I have an issue with. I don't have an issue with them having 5 1/4 acres if they do something with their 5 1/4 acres. I mean, I just don't wanna see it go to weeds.
Maybe a lot of those you're talking about are the ones that are not green belt.
Some of them are for sure.
Yeah, because a lot of the subdivision next to me is not green belt. There's only 2 in that whole subdivision that is green belt.
Well, you have water out there, pressurized irrigation, right, or you have
Yeah.
secondary irrigation?
Yeah.
Will that carry over? Can they transfer that into these smaller lots and divide that?
Yeah, I've already talked to Strawberry.
Yeah.
I lied about it.
Because I know it's pressurized out there, I just didn't know if it was.
So we're on that, Chris. I'm okay with this staying in the city and maintaining the lot size you want. If we could work out something for power and water, and I don't know what that looks like, but it does make more sense for you to disconnect if they're truly all gonna be on their own
The
well.
biggest problem with the power, the water, I think,
Mhm.
is you're not gonna be able to make a loop. So it's gonna be a dead end out there, and I don't know how that would work.
But in the county, you're gonna have wells anyway, whether you're in the city or county, you're gonna have the same.
The same look, so that's why I was wanting to bring water out, because that would be,
Right.
for fire, for everything else, that'd be the
Right.
best thing to do. But I don't know how to do it without a loop, and they don't really have, there's not really water close at all.
No, there's not. Yeah,
We went through everything you guys have talked about, it's just hard to get it over.
yes.
So another question for you, Chris. So just thinking the future, if you need an annex and it comes back to Payson, are you gonna put something in there that the houses have to be built in certain parts of the lot, so eventually?
I don't know if the county will let me do that, we was gonna do it with the city, that's what we were planning on doing, was putting them to the front,
Right.
so that it would work, but I don't know what the county will.
I don't think the county will let you, dictate where the home sits.
So that's, I have that concern about that, because eventually this is gonna come to the city, and then we're gonna have, you know, houses all over the place, and it's gonna be really difficult to do.
This is why we did so many, because we did, how many plans did we do? 3 or 4 different plans with roads here, roads there, trying to get it to work.
I honestly, my gut feeling on this one is I'd love to table it for 2 weeks and sit down with the work session and look at those plans so that we feel like we're part of the decision. So I know that you guys have done that.
Let me interrupt you for a moment. So just to let you know, the council doesn't need to make a decision tonight. They have to make a decision within 45 days of this meeting.
Okay, that's under new state statutes.
That is the state statute.
Okay, well, I don't wanna push him out 45 days, but 14 to 30 days would be ideal to me. Either the next city council or the one after, and make the decision and move forward, but to me, I think I would like to feel like we are listening to the citizens and we're accommodating what they want and what their needs are, rather than just saying, hey, if you don't like what's going on, just jump ship and run. And I feel like that's what a lot of the rural communities around Spring Lake and things like that. I don't want to see that happen. I'd love to see us be good neighbors and be able to work together and make it all work.
Well, this is already part of Payson.
Right.
So, yeah, if we could figure out something, I'd be interested in looking at it too.
Chris, have you talked to other people that have interest out there
As far as what,
that owns other property?
that want to develop or.
We're looking at Tyler back there specifically.
Yeah, he was hiding from me.
He's hiding, but Tyler has a vested interest out that direction, and that might be a way
Is
to.
he guy Lars, where's he
Yeah.
at?
Okay.
Yeah, I talked to him, we talked,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's gonna be quite a while before. Yeah, I talked with him because, well, the city connected me with him.
But if you brought the water out, like if I brought the water out. Too.
Oh, yeah, I looked into it, it's just, to do just
Oh,
this.
I know it is expensive, and that's why I mean, I'm looking at other things too.
Yeah, that's why when the guy was saying he was gonna do the soccer field out there, I talked to him, we agreed to what it would cost me, what it would cost him. I just don't know if it's gonna happen or not, so that's why, okay.
And you can be years out if.
Yeah, and that's why,
I just hate to see, you know, I don't know what a well's going for right now. What does it cost to sink a well out there?
they did it so much, I don't know.
$30,000-$40,000, so times that by 20, you're talking $800,000. You're 20% of driving, running that water line. And that's what I don't wanna see.
Oh, I think we can get the water line out there, I just don't think they let it be a dead end like that.
Yeah, I was.
Travis, do you have anything to add to the
We
water
just, when anybody
situation?
needs water, we make it mandated that they go out there and fill their trucks at the end of that line. That'll keep the water fresh.
Before Travis comes, I would definitely say that we're going into work session territory. That might be better
I was just gonna say, we're going round and
addressed
round
in
and
work
round
session,
anyway.
so.
Do you have to wait for the next meeting, or could we just have a work session?
Well, I got a question for
Or something?
Chris real quick on that. Are you fine with waiting for a couple of weeks? I mean, is there a real hurry to do this right away?
Oh, once you guys do it, I'll just go to the lieutenant governor's office and they can
That
take
takes
forever.
a while.
Right, so us,
Currently, you guys have 45 days. to do it.
right, but you're okay with this working,
Okay.
okay.
I hate to feel like we're the reason why they make laws of these 45 days is, I don't want to be the council that gets in the news for.
Travis, what would you like to chime in on? Just a second, let's.
So the water line, when I looked at the price, was to bring it from both the east side of the freeway and basically from the north, and that was like 5.3 something million. That's okay. So for 19 lots, that becomes very expensive. That's like $235,000 a lot just to get the water.
Well, there's gotta be.
Well, there's already 2 houses there.
With our master plan.
1 million each.
You notice you worked real hard, so.
When we did the master plans, we only looked at the areas that would be developed within like the next 10 to 15 years. This was so far away, we don't
Well, I
have.
thought the sewer went out 790 and around 56. went back.
There are some tentative lift station locations, but they're. The lift station would be astronomical. See, I'm okay with septics. I just want to see water tower out there. That's why we as staff on the engineering, on the utility side, it's astronomical. So we get water, PI, culinary out there was like 23 million.
Well, I'm
Okay.
just, fresh water and power would be the two I'd be looking at. I just want to make sure that when the septic systems go in, that the line coming out of the house is pointed the right direction.
I think we're to the point where we either need to take action on this, action item, or
I would like to motion to table it and do a work session and then come back and make it.
can we go ahead and make that a stipulation in the motion?
The 20th of November.
Yes, so.
Well, then, we're to that point, I think, I'm, whatever the motion is, I'm ready for the motion.
Okay, I think that would do. I need to do it again,
Yeah,
Kim.
do it again.
Okay. We're gonna table it and do a work session and meet back on the 20th.
And I'll second.
Okay, it's been, made a motion, it's been seconded, roll call vote, starting with Council Hyde.
Yes.
Council Moss.
Yes.
Council Lily.
Yes,
Council Field. Council Christmas.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
and Chris, thanks for not doing apartment buildings.
What do you guys want from me on the 20th?
We just want to see what your plans were. We only saw that one little thing on 8.5 by 11. That's the only thing we've ever seen.
I would love to see like a 5 o'clock work session on that one.
I
before
would
then.
too. So it's done before.
Yeah, and then we can meet and discuss it and then
Make a decision.
So Chris, a couple of things on that. I know that they had some challenges with roads and access and stuff like that. Maybe you could address that, you know, what, because eventually we want more road probably do that. Anyway, some of those things that you talked to staff about, that they had some
Yeah,
concern.
we can get you the plot that has the road already,
The easements.
easements and dedicated, because that was what kind of turned me off, was when planning wanted it dedicated instead of just me off. But then it would take a whole bunch of the ground away.
I know in Genola, the easements go right down the middle. They're like easements, they're not dedicated. People live in the middle of the roads.
It sounds like we need to schedule it, and we're just going in circles again, so we'll schedule.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to number 2, ordinance request to apply to MU-1 mixed use overlay located at approximately 1025 west, 800 south, Spring Creek Landing. Michael, you got something for us again?
So this is just gonna zoom in again. This area here is, where Spring Creek Landing would be. This is where Jimmy John's is going in now, 800 south. I'm gonna let, Wes Zufeld share his presentation and then we'll come back to staff, comments. So let me pull that presentation up really quick.
Thank you for being here, Wes.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Council, Mayor. I'm Wesley Zufelt with Evolve Building and Development. We appreciate you letting us come back tonight. So Spring Creek Landing that we've talked to you about before, we were wanting to get the mixed use overlay like he mentioned. My graphic does not ever want to cooperate and stay sideways. We have spoken with you and kind of tried to work the site down, hearing the neighbors' comments as much as we could. The city's comments, we reduced from, I guess if you go back 2.5 years, we reduced from 78 down to 68 down to 48. We increased commercial from around 15,000 to 20 to 23,000. Commercial always poses a unique challenge when it comes to development. Banks don't love lending on it. Mixed use projects also pose a unique problem with that because they also include commercial, but the residential helps make the site and the costs work. So what we propose is 48 condos, 23,000 feet of commercial. The commercial we anticipate being mainly office. Places like retail and food typically need great street frontage. This is tucked back away from 800 south. So it's not gonna get a lot of the street frontage that retail or food places typically depend on to help draw their business in and be successful. We anticipate stuff like salon services, moving our office in there for property management, real estate. The salon service one, we have a client that we work with. He owns Solitude Salon Studios in Orem. They offer a variety of services from medical type treatments, light treatments, Botox, to regular services, pedicures, manicures, hair, all that stuff, facials. We did adjust our site design and move all of our green space over against the residential edges of the property. I did have the opportunity to have a conversation with Chad Rowley, with the fruit growers, and he raises a concern that it's possible whoever lives there, rents there, may not appreciate them next door, which we understand is a legitimate concern. Whenever there's change, you don't know how that's going to affect you in the long term. We manage a mixed-use building in Springville, and it is 150 yards maybe from the sewer treatment plant. So on certain days when the wind blows the right direction, that's all anybody smells. And that's, I guess, part of where they've chosen to live. It helps that the fruit growers are there and established. They're not coming in after the fact. We're the ones coming in after the fact. Where we are a property manager, we do work with our tenants consistently and constantly to make sure that they're happy, that they understand where they are, those types of things. My dad, Jimmy Zufeld, was the developer of the Arrowhead condos that was in Payson and got approved. That was 90 doors. And that, ironically, is also over the fence from the New Salem sewer treatment plant.
You guys know how to pick them, don't you?
Apparently, we've got a niche here. So we do understand that hurdle. We have encountered that before. Both the projects that I mentioned that are close to those locations do very well. None of our tenants in Springville have ever complained about the smell. We don't manage the doors in Payson, so I can't speak to those. But my dad said that he didn't really have any problems building over there. He had a great project and liked what he did. And they were able to fill them all fairly quickly, so they did well. We did drop from 4 stories originally 2.5 years ago, 3 stories, now we're down to 2 stories, limiting our max roof height to be the same as your residential zoning code next door, so no more than 35 feet. We worked with our architect, and instead of doing higher pitched roofs, as this image shows, it's a lower pitched roof, and our goal is to have the max roof height be 30 to 32 is where they're telling us. Until we draw the plans, we don't have that exact number. Part of moving the building and the green space the way we did on the site was listening to the concern of the neighbors and the privacy in their backyards, that they didn't want a 3-story building that was just looking straight in and could always see them. And by moving it back and keeping it the same as some of the homes in the neighborhood, there's some ramblers, there's some 2 stories. We were hoping that with the site design and the trees and the new roof height, obviously your windows aren't at that 35 feet, that it would grant them as much privacy as it would the tenants of this building, whether it's the commercial or the residential. We have overparked the site, so we have more parking spaces than are required. We heard the neighbors' concern about having our trash locations at the back, which was originally so trucks could drive in, go straight to it, and then circle out. We moved them up to the front where Jimmy John's are and away from all the neighbors so that the trucks can go around and still get their straight shot and have better flow, but also move those waste locations away from all residential so that hopefully we're not impacting them with snow. We did increase the commercial like the city asked. When we went back and did all of our pre-site design with our engineer, we've been working with city staff on some of the red lines that have been brought up as a concern. We're still working through those. Obviously, we need a zone change before we can truly finalize anything if we are granted the zone change. I think I've covered most of my stuff. What questions do you guys have?
I have a question for the attorney. So with this, if we make this mixed use overlay and put it there, is this a possible bait and switch kind of thing, or can we put contingencies upon that, say, in this mixed use area, they're 35-foot maximum height, 48 units? Is there a way to do that? I know that the state has bound us that once it's zoned, and there's nothing we can do about it. But I don't know what that would entail.
So let me ask this question. So you're thinking that if they're telling us now that you think or you're just theorizing that if they switch it and go over the 35 feet?
Yeah, that's a question. I mean, even, it's not necessarily them doing the bait and switch. They might have a financial issue and somebody come in and take it away from them, and it's got this mixed use overlay. Once it's zoned, we lose our control.
Once it's zoned, we can do a development agreement that would force them into.
Would it force upon the sale the new owners to
It
abide
would
by
be,
that?
it would bind any successors on the contract.
So we could do the development agreement at the same time we do the zone change, so it's
No,
not,
it would be after.
because once you do the zone change, what happens if we can't get the development agreement that we?
Well, they have to submit a site plan and all that stuff.
We did talk about the developer agreement with you guys in the last 2 work sessions. And all of these items were specific to that, and we are more than willing, so is our client.
Okay.
Those details.
And it's not necessarily, I mean, I feel like we've had a good relationship. You probably feel like we've been bullying you a little bit because you keep chopping everything down, but we appreciate, from my standpoint, I appreciate that you've done what's been asked and tried to get it down to where it needs to be. And I know there's still some concerns in the neighborhood, and I've been on the council for almost 7 years now, and this piece of property has been in the conversation the entire 7 years. So
You can also, what I was just reminded of, you can make this little change contingent on.
okay, good. That's perfect. That's what, and it is right. They're coming in. You're coming in after the cherry plant, and I know that they run 24 hours a day for what, 14 days out of the year?
At least sometimes
Yeah.
longer.
Yeah, depending on the harvest, and so it is life, it's part of it, but I think we can all get through it, survive.
When I talk to Chad, I can't speak with him, and this feels like a good solution, he is there. When I spoke to him, I mentioned we're planning to put the concrete fence around the residential side, which is the east and the south side first. Which was also a request from the neighbors, if we do move forward with construction, please put the fence up first to try and limit noise and sound, because concrete blocks a lot better than wood or vinyl. When I spoke with Chad, I said, what we were thinking on your side is instead of the 6-foot one, looking at potentially an 8-foot one. And obviously, it would be engineered as a concrete fence, and it's gonna require footings, whether it's a 6 or an 8-foot, so we would go through those normal processes if we ended up proceeding with this zone change in the developer agreement. But we talked with him about potentially putting an 8-foot on their side so that there's less impact of their big trucks moving around at night, their headlights and everything. We're placing our covered parking on their side, which also provides a sound barrier that helps the people in our building. So we are trying to make the site work. I realize there's gonna be people who don't want it, and that's okay. But we are doing what we can to try and make it work with all the moving pieces and people that are around this project.
And just so you're aware, you really are mandated for this, not only for Payson Fruit Growers being a fruit production facility, but we're also installing a water treatment facility there on site at the request of the city. And so that may add to the smells and sounds, and we don't know yet, but it sure could.
Right, and Chad did mention that to us, and that they're trying to do a system that would limit that, but there may be days or times when that.
It stinks.
It'd be a pre-treatment facility.
Is Evolve gonna maintain ownership of all the units, or are you guys selling them?
So we are not the owner of the project, somebody else is, and our client has talked about selling some as condos, keeping some as rentals, or one building basically doing a subdivided plat where one is a single tax ID and the other one is individual tax IDs. And the reason for that, it allows for FHA financing and USDA. But the client has not specifically said if they'll be condos or apartments or a blend.
My only fear is we're building these types of properties in the good name of affordable housing, but it rapidly turns into something completely different when one company comes in and buys all of them, and then it turns into riffraff rentals. And so I wonder if there'd ever be a conversation where we could deed restrict to truly protect home ownership. And so these truly are starter homes for families.
I know there are ways to do deed restrictions. I don't know. With affordable housing, typically when you deed restrict one, with our experience and what we've done, and obviously there's stuff we haven't done, so I'm not an expert on all of it. But typically when it's a deed restriction or affordable housing like that, the state or the county says, how many doors do you have? Okay, it's a percentage. This is what needs to be done for that. And typically to help offset that because of the amount of the development costs, the cost of the land, the cost of the construction, they do grants or certain things that reduce those costs, which allow for those units to be deed restricted and remain that way. We do have a client that owns 24 doors in Roosevelt, and it's 6 fourplexes. And the person we bought it from was the developer, but they did what you're speaking of, and they deed restricted one building as low-income housing, whether it's sold as individual doors or whether it's used as rentals. That building has to stay under certain caps that are set by the county that it's in. And so there are ways and options to do that. We haven't explored the affordable housing side of it. If our client kept it as rentals, we're the property management company. I understand that you're trying to avoid certain.
What I'm trying to avoid is that all of it turning into just rentals, and then there's one less home that a primary resident owner could live in and habitate, gain equity on.
And to use the term the Councilwoman Hyatt said, the riffraff. that comes into who owns the building, what rents are they gonna set? If it's super low, you're gonna attract, I guess, what you're referring to is the riffraff apartments or.
I didn't say riffraff.
Well, I did, but, and I don't mean to sound elitist or
No,
compartmentalized,
I get
but
that.
I'm simply stating in our city,
I'm
we,
just trying to make sure.
especially on this end, on the other side of the freeway, the Ridgestone condominium started out as a wonderful development. I lived there for a time. And now it's just turned into a lot of trouble, a lot of problems. And it's unfortunate because there's a lot of good families there, but they get chased out by all the rentals that are there as well.
Well, and our goal is to have our office there, so obviously we love Payson, we believe in the area. It's not that we have to move from where we are in Springville or anything like that. When we property manage for our clients, their security deposit is the same as their first month's rent. We do background checks on them. We verify all their employment, all of their finances. We call their lender, we call their employer, we call their previous tenants and landlords to learn everything we can. All of our clients have us do background checks and they have the criteria of what we accept and we don't accept. So as a property management company, we do try to take those steps to make sure that our client's asset is protected. And it's protected when we have tenants who take care of it, who aren't throwing trash in our parking lots, who we do CCNRs and HOA docs and all of our stuff. And like our building in Springville, we don't allow them to decorate their patios and cover it and stuff or put gardens out there. To keep the building looking clean, to make sure that they're not drilling in and damaging it and causing maintenance issues that decrease the property's value. So I can't promise that there won't be someone who complains one day that the fruit growers smell and the wind is blowing the wrong direction.
Right.
I can't 100% control who ends up living there and how they treat our property. We do evict people that abuse our clients' properties, and I'm licensed in Colorado as an agent and Utah, and in Colorado to evict someone is like a 6 to 12 month process. And they can do anything they want to your property during that, and they know they're being evicted. Utah, it's a 3-day process. And so we've rarely had to evict anyone, but every now and then there's someone who's damaging our client's property or is causing noise or a nuisance, and we take it very seriously.
It sounds like
every one of them
you're
gets it out.
looking to rent them and not sell them.
No, this is just answering questions if it was a rental because of the concern that was brought up if it was rentals.
How much of the bottom is saved for commercial? And how
So
big
it's
are they gonna be?
2 separate buildings so that we can pay the costs of construction. The bank will require that. The first building that would go up would have the commercial, and the entire main floor is commercial, so 23,000 square feet. And then the floor above it has the residential. The second building is also 2 stories, both floors are residential. And that's where the 48 doors come in, so it's 16 doors per level on the residential. And those units we're planning to be 3-bedroom, 2-bath, more like 1,500 square feet. So they're a little larger on what you would normally see in the 3-bedroom. Anywhere in Utah County, we're bigger than most by 200 to 250 square feet. They will rent for higher amounts being larger, or they would sell for higher amounts. When we originally brought this project, we had it marked as luxury condos. We were trying to put elevators in the building. We were going to have private storage units that were for the tenants. So each, or I say tenant, but owners, each condo had its own private one. We were trying to put in a fitness room and a rentable space so that they could have family functions and get-togethers and use of that space. But as we reduce the number of doors and the size of the project, those amenities have to come from somewhere in cost, and the less doors, the less I can spread that cost of an amenity like elevators. And in our 2 buildings, to put elevators in, which doesn't make sense on a 2-story, but when it wasn't a 2-story, that only worked with ADA requirements and fire requirements if each building had 2 elevators. Elevators are extremely expensive to operate, to maintain, to install. As we started losing number of doors to meet requirements or requests from neighbors or the council, some of those amenities had to go away. The storage units aren't necessarily super expensive. We were trying to provide those amenities so that these were luxury condos and they would sell at higher price points between 300,000 and 400,000 instead of in the mid twos where you typically see condos. We did keep as many amenities as we could. I have pets. I've lived in multiple apartment complexes in Utah and Colorado, and something I look for is a dog park because I want to go out there. I want to meet other people. I don't want my dogs to be locked inside the condo all day. Dogs love to run free. We go hiking and stuff. So we're looking for amenities like that in ours. And one of you brought up with our green space, it'd be nice if there was somewhere that people could throw a ball and actually get out there and play. And so that's why we moved all the green space to one side and made it, I believe, like 25 feet wide. And that allows us to put in an actual playground, a fenced dog area, a fence along that whole green strip so that it separates from the parking. And then kids are not just gonna run into the parking lot, even if the ball goes over the fence or goes in there. We've got our barrier to help keep them safe. So we've tried to add all that back in. Our original goal was to sell off one of the buildings and the client retain the other one as a rental asset. I still think that's the direction they're leaning. I don't think that they plan to keep the whole thing, but I am not the owner, so I don't have that judgment at this point. It's hard for them to make that call when we don't know the final site design, the final size, if the zone change goes through. And so some of the questions, will it be condos, will it be apartments, will it be a blend, is too early for them to make that decision.
I still feel it needs to stay more commercial. Because basically 3/4 of it is going to be apartments and only 1/4 of it is going to be commercial. And it's commercial, and that area is commercial. And so to go up, I don't have a problem with that because we have it on Main Street. But I kind of agree with Kevin. I never really cared for that. It's not a walkabout. They're not gonna walk about, and that's why they've done it like that in all these different cities, is because they're so close to shopping. I mean, I guess they can all walk to Walmart, but they won't.
Struggle with commercial is truly street
Okay, I was
frontage
gonna
and
ask you about
keeping it
that.
business.
How long has that been a financial problem? I mean, forever? Or just since the last change of presidents?
Forever, but it's changed as time has gone on. So if you look back 15 years ago, typically banks would say, if you have 50% of your commercial pre-leased or pre-sold, we'll let you move forward with that commercial building.
So
When it's mixed use, they require 100% of the
Okay,
commercial.
so if you
because
were
they're
doing
not
that,
Concerned about
I
residential.
need to interrupt,
No,
but
you're fine.
my thoughts come that fast. It's just like we've talked about, I've talked to Robert about this. Everybody coming in that's doing this is bringing in hair salon or real estate. We have enough hair salons, we have enough real estate offices. We need like little clothes stores, we need shoe stores, we need things that people don't have to leave Payson for.
We can't force
I know,
businesses to
but that-
open.
but that's what I'm saying is, we are taking, how much ground is that?
Just under 3 acres.
Okay, we're taking 3 acres and 3/4 of it is going to go to apartments and it is commercial. This is what
Well,
I'm talking
3/4
about.
of acreage isn't, because 3/4 of the acreage.
I
is
realize
parking,
that, but what I'm saying is,
Yeah,
because of setbacks and everything you have to do, you're still only having 1/4 of it be commercial and the other 3/4 are apartment.
I ain't kind of looking at it, I know that, Brian over here is trying to get over it, it's like stupid. To me, it's a good transitional piece, and we've brought it down low enough that it's not
But I
the
think we
4-story
still need
hotel that we
more-
were looking at 6 years ago.
I
And
still think we need more commercial there, at least
I-
half.
so you guys had us redo the traffic
Financing's not
study.
gonna allow it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
You had us redo the traffic study
Well,
as part of
they-
this.
they had a pool, this would have a pool, you know, it was.
And the UDOT traffic study actually said we don't want retail because that type of business, somebody's there for 30 minutes and then they leave. Somebody's there for 30 minutes and then they leave. So the amount of traffic coming in and out increases by having commercial. Residential, they all leave in the morning for work, they all come home in the evening for work.
I disagree with that.
For the, not 100%, it's not
everybody
absolute.
works at the same time.
Yeah, well, there's people that work at home, and there's people that work at night and everything. But your bulk or your majority is going to leave at a certain time, come back at a certain time. I'm a night owl, so I'm the one who's coming home at 10 or 11. Out doing stuff. But commercial is extremely hindered if it does not have street frontage. And those buildings don't have street frontage, and they're not gonna be viewed from somebody driving by on 800 South. True. But if you have retail in there, shoes, clothing stores, it is a much more traffic intensive situation. And there's no ebb and flow to it, if that makes sense. You don't have your majority leaving at a certain time or coming at a
So
certain
you
time.
not said that they don't want us to do that, but then like, not commercial.
No, they said that they don't want certain types of cells in there, that they wouldn't recommend it because of the traffic impact, but it was favorable to stuff that was related to office space and salon type services where people are coming and they're gonna be there for an hour or two. And they didn't say that they would say no to the project, they just gave their recommendations.
Brian, did you have a question?
Yeah, no, it's a question, just a couple of comments, just going back to retail there, I'd love to have retail there, but it is a real challenge because it's set between houses, not on the front of a road, and the Payson fruit growers, and to get people to come into a little strip mall there, it's gonna be a real challenge. I talked to quite a few restaurants about going in there, none of them want to have anything to do with it because of the location, so it is a challenge that way. I think the only way you're gonna kind of get is the service industries that will, because they don't rely on that so much, is that to have that traffic.
It's more client.
So it is a challenge at piece for having just strictly retail commercial. I'm not saying one way or another, but I'm just pointing out the fact.
I think we're to the point we've talked about an awful lot of different subjects, so I'm inclined is to, don't really want to catch up, but I guess I am. And ask for a motion on the existing item.
I will make a motion that we approve the request for the MU1 mixed use overlay located at approximately 1025 west, 800 south, contingent upon, what was the verbiage? A development agreement being in place at the time of the zone change being finalized.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, have a motion been seconded, roll call vote starting with Council Christensen.
Yes.
Council Hewitt.
Yes.
Council Rowley.
As a family interest to adjacent property, I'm going to recuse myself from this vote.
You can still.
I recuse.
No. No.
This is our first time having it, right? At least my first time.
Well, Mayor, you get the vote.
Yes. Okay,
Just so everybody knows, it's contingent upon the site plan, not the zone change, because the zone change would occur tonight.
That went into
The
it.
site plan, we'll just make that note.
Okay. So noted.
okay. Moving on to number 3. Ordinance request to apply the I-O infill overlay located at 298 north, 400 east in the R-1-7.5 residential zone to allow for a two-lot subdivision with reduced setbacks, relative. Michael?
So this is, again, a map that's zooming into the area for you. It's zooming in quick, I can rewind it here. So hopefully everybody knows where they're at by looking at this map. Oops. You can see as we're zooming in, here's Petite Meat right here. And so it is this lot here that goes from about where my cursor or my laser pointer is to here. There's a small creek that comes through the center there, and the proposal would be to get the infill overlay so that reduced setbacks could be done on the new lot that will be created here in the rear, and I'll show you that in a moment. So the new lot would be right here. This is what the applicant has submitted to us. This is the existing home here. The new lot would be right here, ending not quite half of the lot. Both lots would be still greater than the minimum lot size for the zone. The difficulty and the reason for the infill overlay is this is a fairly narrow lot. And so in order to put a home here, it was very difficult to site that. So the applicant would have a reduced setback here in the rear to 15 feet and a reduced setback in the front to 15 feet. But I also wanted to point out to you that they're showing on here where the curb gutter and sidewalk will go, which is here. There's still city owned right of way. I'm not sure how much that is. I think it's another 15 feet or so there. So even with the reduced setback, they would still be set back at least 25 to 30 feet from the road. Their driveway, they've oriented in such a way that it would be still 25 feet setback. And so they really need this infill overlay to actually even physically be able to locate a home. I believe the entire width of this is about 65 feet. Questions on this before I continue?
No, I'm very familiar with this region. This is actually on my block where I live, just so as a disclaimer or whatever needs to go in there. That lot that you see next to it is also a really narrow one, so there's no possibility. Yeah, I have a flag lot. I actually own the flag lot behind that one to the south of that piece, which is big enough to actually, it's 5/8 of an acre, but to get one in behind that house wouldn't be possible. So the setback off the back fence isn't going to encroach upon any living quarters. There's nothing there that it's really steep topography. In fact, I think this has a walkout basement to the west side of it.
So I'll show that to you.
I do have some concerns with the whole overall project. I've talked with the engineers a little bit about it. I don't know if you want me to talk about that now or wait until a different time.
Sure, go ahead.
We have allocated a certain amount for curb gutter and sidewalks, and this project is one that to me fits the criteria to a T, because the houses to the east, the two on the corner won't, unless somebody tore them down and rebuilt them, won't trigger the sidewalk being built. And every rainstorm, every wash, I know because I'm on the other side of the block, and we shovel it out by the wheelbarrow pools as it runs down off the hill. Will provide a major problem here. So if this does go through, I think it needs to be contingent upon the city that we provide the funding for the curb gutter and sidewalk from the end of theirs up and around to be done at the time that the other sidewalk is done, because I think it will cause washout issues if it's not.
And to speak to that a little bit, I spoke with the applicant about that very issue after you mentioned it. And he said he's willing to pay for the engineering to do it for the entirety, going all the way up to those other lots.
Okay.
He said he's also, since he does a construction company, he'd even be willing to do the work, but he doesn't want to pay for it.
Right,
Those
and
other units.
that's a discussion that we've had. And so I think that that's an excellent way. I don't know if Travis is on board with that, to have that engineering done. I'm in favor of it. I know it's gotta probably have a catch basin as well. Seems kind of weird because the ditch is right there, but
With the design, that would, wherever the low points, we'd have to put a catch basin and some.
yeah, and everything. But anyway, I think it's headed in the right direction, and that was the vision that when I talk about curb gutter and sidewalk, and these are the old parts of town that need that little bit of a boost, so.
This solves some problems.
Yes.
Yes, and the applicant said he would pay for the engineering,
Right.
do it for the rest, just not pay for the.
Yeah, exactly.
the
So we would
infrastructure.
be on the hook to pay the difference, but there should be funds in the road funds for that, so. As long as Dave's okay with us putting that kind of stuff in there.
Just will have to know how much it's gonna cost us.
It's not gonna cost $300,000.
No, it's not.
The more curb and gutter we get, the longer our roads last. And so any area we can improve and get more curb and gutter, it's a good plan. long term.
This is nothing else, the visual.
This is a safe school walking area as well. I mean, it is across the street from Barnett. You cannot walk up the south side of 400 North. There's no sidewalk. There's no sidewalk, period. And it's, so it's a win-win in my opinion. For what we're saying.
Mike, you got anything else for us?
Yeah, they've done most of it.
I can share with you some possible findings and staff recommendation if you like.
Okay, go ahead, please do.
So we talked about a little bit of this already, but each of the lots will be larger than the minimum for the zone, which is 7,500 square feet. It would benefit from the infill development. It would also benefit from infrastructure, as Councilman Christensen said. We feel as if this is an opportunity to establish some of the goals and objectives of the city as we try to do some infill development, things like that. And so ultimately, staff recommends approval for this overlay zone change to be done. And just to add to that, Planning Commission has already given a positive recommendation for approval on this.
Okay, given that information and the discussion, unless there's other discussions to be had.
These are single family homes that are planned to go ahead.
That's what we want.
Two, one, the existing and one new one.
Okay, based off of that,
I think there's a shop or something talking about it.
Yes.
That gets it.
Yeah, the existing owner wants to build a shop on the remainder of his property once it's set together.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the request to apply the inlay overlay located at 398 North, 400 East in the R1 7.5 residential zone to allow for a 2-lot subdivision with reduced setbacks.
I'll second.
we have a motion and seconded, roll call vote starting with Council Hyatt.
Yes.
Council Moss,
Yes.
Council Rowley.
Yes.
Council Hewitt.
Yes.
Council Christensen.
Yes.
Wonderful, motion carries.
I can't see my backyard.
Number 4, resolution, proposed power transmission line, Sean.
Michael, do you want to do this one too?
Might as well, I'm on a roll.
Mayor and council, just a comment here, we've got information, or we've got any more discussion we have. We've had a couple of public meetings on this, and Sean's ready to answer any other questions that you might have. Just need to have a decision sometime in council.
Down SR 198.
198.
Order some poles.
Figured that.
And how big are the poles and how much power?
Are they wood, or are they great, those great big?
You can
steel?
decide whether you want wood or steel.
Okay. Steel.
And steel, you could probably engineer a little closer. I mean, we'll work with everybody to try and figure out where the best placement is. The distance between poles is roughly average of 300 feet, but you can go a little longer or shorter. And if you use steel poles, you can engineer them more. So if you do, we do have a bunch of wood poles and a few steel poles on currently, but then we can also use them on the west side of the highway as well. If extending towards Red Bridge too, so we can use that stuff either way. So it depends on how you want it to look.
For me, I would defer to your expertise of what poles are needed so we can strategically place them to impact the least amount of residents.
I'd like it to be consistent, at least.
Right, I don't want
Where
some
you
that
see
start.
it, where you see it.
You don't want a mixture, like if you go out on American Way, there is wood and steel.
There is, yeah,
corners,
it's-
And I don't know, and
I don't
and
mind
some of the
steel
steel is
corners,
nice, do like,
but-
and galvanized steel, and then there's, the rusted steel look. I kind of like the rusted steel look, but it blends in. But, yeah, I mean, it looks cool to me, but it's just what, we can work with what you want. It's just, but you need to start getting easements and engineering, and just make sure it can be done.
Okay, Dan, ask Will a question. What's the voltage that will be on?
46 kV, it's, as far as megawatts, I mean, it just depends on what the load is down on that line. We are running in a situation, we have to have a meeting with Patterson here, this next week.
Oh, for the deal? For the one up on the deal?
Yeah, and about the power issue, we just don't have enough capacity to let, just keep it.
And then they keep buying electric cars and charging big items that use a lot of power.
So the route will be what you showed us on the map.
Yeah, on route number 1, and we don't know if it's feasible all the way, we think it is, and we've been told it is.
But you've got to
We
now.
need to explore the
Yeah.
easements and all that, and all the way, like, show we're serious.
I'd like to leave it up to the power department about kind of polls and all that, so we aren't making decisions in city council for everything that goes on in the city.
But you can make a decision on how to, someone, and you know, okay. Because engineers will, you can engineer it with wood, you can engineer it with whatever, and so it's, you know.
Okay. Any further council discussion?
I motion that we approve the proposed power line transmission down State Road 198.
Okay, we have a motion.
Teresa got it.
Okay, we have a motion and been seconded. Roll call vote starting with Council Christensen,
Yes.
Council Hewitt,
Yes.
Council Rowley,
Yes.
Council Moss.
Because of the proximity of my property, I'm refusing my.
Thank you. Council Hyde.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gives you some good.
Thanks, Sean, for all.
Thank
Thank you,
the.
Sean. Yeah, sorry to drag you through that. That was time well spent.
No, it's all good.
Okay, going to F, work session. Discussion regarding South Meadow Plan amendments update. Michael, you're up again.
Sort of. So I'm gonna defer to Tyler. If you recall, it was probably about a month and a half ago, he came in, did a work session with us showing some of the work that he wants to propose in area just south and west of the Red Bridge area there. And so I'm gonna defer to him to come share what changes and things that he has done after you saw that previous rendition. And then I just want it to be a discussion amongst everyone. We do have a few comments that staff have put on the plat map or the concept map that he's done, so we can kind of chime in with comments, but we really just want it to be a discussion. So I'll turn the time over to Tyler.
Thanks, Mike.
Tyler, appreciate you being here.
Your 5 minutes is going fast.
We did get reading, we're gonna be out an hour and a half ago.
Good luck.
We love to hear from you.
One thing while you're sharing this, I will just say, as far as the Chris Wall and that de-annexation. We obviously, so we own like 120 acres right next to that. I'm always just super sensitive to say something that'll affect somebody, like if he wants to de-annex, I'm hesitant to try to influence that. I really respect what people have the right to do, but we would be interested in getting the water line out there. Obviously, we intend to develop in the future, so just so you guys
The
are.
benefit I see with having utilities pre-existing out there could give us more leverage and a bigger stick to play with in the future.
So if you're interested in water line out there, would you be willing, even though you aren't developing now, to put in money now to help get us out there, because he's not gonna wait, so is that?
Yeah,
Okay,
I think that's the idea.
so you might all be able to go together and do it now, get some kind of EID.
You go out to Genoa and they're going up like crazy.
The one thing that maybe that we would want to look at though, if we were gonna put some money up, and I think this is pretty standard, is it'd be nice if we could get a pioneering agreement, just so like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I was gonna mention, I couldn't remember the word for it when he was up here, but I think you mentioned pioneering agreement.
Yeah.
Well, he's never gonna- Chris is never gonna-
Yeah.
So it's-
Thank you, Tyler, for.
Yeah, just wanted to mention that, so.
Dave.
Yeah, so just, and I'll make this as quick as I can. So we came up like a couple of months ago and just shared this with you guys and wanted to get some feedback so that before we go to a decision, we like make sure we're in step. And so this is the old plan, that we brought, and just as a reminder, some of the feedback that we got was, really one of the main things was kind of like, we recognize that this is a higher density development, but probably a good location for it, but you guys wanted to make sure that it was clear, like, where does the density stop? And so the suggestion was, maybe could you put some single family houses there to kind of show,
Start to transition.
yeah, this is where the line is drawn, where there's no more attached.
Okay, so tell me whose property is this? I forget.
So this is,
Hyatt or is it the acres?
yeah, it's kind of confusing. So that this
This is
border
Aiken.
portion is the old Hyatt Dairy. It's just
Okay.
20 acres. And then this portion down here is the old Aiken family property. We just bought that last month. And then there's one more parcel right here that we're gonna buy in the spring.
Is that Aiken's?
No,
Or is
the guy named Dale Draper owns it.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah. So we have a contract in place for that, and then this is, Mrs. Spencer used to live here, it's just south of that Hershey, church, what's it called? The Orthodox Church. Yeah, that church just south of there.
What did you call it?
It's like a Hershey kiss.
Oh, I thought you said horseshoe. I was thinking more, I thought it meant the onion, but.
It's with the golden dome. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was one of the comments, and then in talking with staff, and I think the police chief brought this up. This old layout, it would be kind of hard for like first responders and people to get over here because they'd have to kind of zigzag through here. So they just said, if there's any way we could make a road like, just so there's less zigzagging, yeah, just to get over there. That was another comment, and then Travis just wanted us to shift some buildings around, so just so the utilities will work, basically. So that's the old plan. This is kind of the updated plan. The main thing is, as you can see, these are just single family lots. They just would be detached lots. Kind of delineating where there's the attached stuff to the north, and then it would transition to the south. My brother and I we're talking with the rural housing, who owns about 15 acres just south of us. And we were trying to buy that with them. We didn't really ever reach an agreement, but what they told us is they actually don't really even have any interest in building attached houses just because of what they do. They help people build houses. They actually want to build single family there. So anyway, it really, we feel like this is a good.
Does this lay out to their benefit as well for those roads for?
Yeah, their concept plan, they used the location of where we subbed our roads out, so.
I just like the good neighbor policy, I really do. And you guys, I know we were butted heads at first, but I really liked the way you were.
Yeah, I mean, this will be a lot of while coming. The big holdup has been kind of the Red Bridge development. I think that's just had some problems that I
What's
think
going
you
on
guys.
there, Robert?
Let's focus on this one.
So yeah, maybe I shouldn't be.
Sorry, I'm sorry, that's the holdup.
No.
Development by the end of this year.
The college looks really good.
It's
Um,
coming, it's coming.
Yes.
But we did rearrange this road just so it would, you could see that like a police car or a fire truck would have an easier time getting through there. And then we worked with Travis and Jonathan to move these buildings. I'll say that this isn't a perfect plan. Like I talked to Travis and Jonathan and Robert, and they had some additional comments. Like you can imagine this is like a pretty big project. So we just wanted to come one more time and just say, hey, is this like generally a good layout? Because our next step, we're gonna spend like quite a bit of money and actually design the whole thing and go through like several rounds with the staff. So anyway, that's.
So Tyler, could you just rattle off some numbers if you have them? How many homes and how many would be single family versus higher density attached.
Those yellow ones are homes.
Yeah,
These are single family here.
Yeah.
uh,
What's right next to that, like right.
These here?
No, to that side,
These?
yeah, right there.
These are townhomes.
Okay, and then the bigger buildings are gonna
These
be,
are condos.
condos, yeah. And I wanted to.
can we do all townhomes for the smallest?
So, one of the big things that, we're trying to get here, and I wanna make a couple points here. So our condos are not, I know you guys have had like some bad experiences with like a 1-bedroom condo and like that is not what we build. Our condos are all 3-bedroom and they all have a garage, and we designed it so they all have a 25-foot driveway. So we really did design this in a way that it's like,
So your condos do or your townhouses?
our condos do. The condos actually have that. Yeah, so the townhomes are like actually quite a bit bigger. And they're most 4-bedroom. We do have some 3-bedroom, but then it's a townhome, so you.
Do they have garages as well, or are they just?
Oh, yeah, the townhomes all have 2-car garages.
How tall of condos are you guys thinking?
So the condos are 3 stories.
So
So,
argument like this railroad track, are close by.
yeah, the railroad.
They all are essentially.
Yeah, right there, right?
We have a road in the right.
Everything in red, Teresa, everything in red, all these.
So the overall community is just shy of 500 units, and then most are condos, then towns, then single.
How many acres are we talking for 500 units?
It's 45 about, I think it might be a little bit more
So
than that.
medium density.
Yeah, it depends on which city you're in, how you define that. Salt Lake City, this is like a low density development.
So is this, Tyler's the only road we have going in and out, just that one?
This way connect here.
Is there one across the north side of that property? Is it a road as well?
Yeah, there is. We did this kind of confusing, and I went back and forth on how to show this. We
This is
grade this
11:30.
out because this is already, we already
What's that,
have.
Michael, what were you pointing out there?
This is 1130 right here, 1130 south.
Yeah,
Okay.
And then, so these would connect. And then this is already approved. And so that's why it's in gray, but it's their same development.
And what's that, is that the front part?
These would be townhomes here.
yeah, that's the front part of the high property right there.
Okay.
And you,
Go ahead.
so your condos, the 3 stories is single stack, you aren't stacking on top of each other, right?
It's one unit per.
Right. So it's one unit
Like a
up.
house, a
No.
house.
So so the condos, so the first story is actually mostly garages, right?
Right.
So each condo building is 10 units. The first story is there's 10 garages there, and there's 1 unit, and then the next floor has has like 4 units, and then the top story has 4 units. That's what it is.
Okay.
So then there's 10 total.
So the unit isn't necessarily connected directly to.
Right.
The bottom floor the bottom floor has a room in the garage. The rest, you have to go downstairs to get in your garage.
I guess I just asked if we think for the future of cramming all of these people in together, then we've got the higher density Red Ridge that's coming too. I asked that we go as very wide as we can on the roads. I think that's really important. I think that will provide a longer lasting quality product for Payson in the long term. I know it's really expensive, and I'm frustrated the state legislator keeps chipping away our required width of roads. But man, we would just love a good faith effort by you guys to maybe lose 1 or 2 of something. I know that's a big ask, Tyler, I do, to widen those roads a little bit, because what we see is even if adequate garages and driveways, we have way too many people in our city parking on the side of the road. And then when you get 2 people parking on the side of the road and trucks driving by, it's just so narrow, especially with young kids. I just think longer lasting, resellability, marketability, I think all in all, wider roads are the way to go.
Yeah, I don't think we're asking for any sort of like, variance or anything here to do anything smaller.
Is that 32?
I think the standard cross section is 60 feet.
Oh, okay.
So we're building like just the normal.
Well, the most we can require, I think, is 52 of asphalt. Do you remember, Robert, what they're
32.
only 32 feet of
And
asphalt?
like non- and they go park there.
There are categories of roads, right? Some of
Yeah.
these roads are higher.
meet those.
So you're 60 feet from back sidewalk to back sidewalk.
That's what I was talking about, yeah, the whole, including like sidewalk and everything is usually what.
Yeah, you've got how many feet of sidewalk?
5 feet on each side.
And
10, so there you're at.
We have our most strips would be required.
The one thing I wanted to make sure I told you guys as well, last time, I don't know if you remember, but Councilman Morale, you brought up the question that you brought up with that other gentleman about like restricting the.
We're just protecting home ownership, so it doesn't turn into one company coming in, buying everything and then turning into rentals.
Yeah.
Just defeats the purpose.
So, and like what I promised last time is we'd have our attorney write up a letter just to,
Oh, yeah.
for our benefit and for yours, and so we did that. I sent it to Michael, I can, just make sure that you guys get it, and I think it would be good, just so you know, it's educational. I learned a lot, you guys could learn a lot. The high level summaries, there's like several different means of doing that. What that gentleman said, I can't totally speak to that, but you can definitely do it, and we are willing to do it here because like you do have a legitimate concern, the way that we would like to do it. There is gonna be an HOA here, obviously, because there's a lot of common area. What we would like to do is have our HOA set that bar, and what we're proposing is like 60% would be owner occupied. We think that's important because that means that owners would always control the HOA so that they're setting the rules and they can kind of dictate how things are done, so.
It's so frustrating. We see these big developments come in and it's in the name of affordable housing, and then it's not even for families. It's not even solving the problem that the state's trying to make us solve. And so I appreciate you looking into that for us, because we got to protect the home ownership in these things. There has to be a starter home.
Yeah.
And I was gonna talk to you, if somebody's gonna rent them, like, I don't know if you guys would keep them. We need to have it so if you guys were to sell that building to somebody else, they've gotta take care of it. Do you know what I'm saying? They can't just let it go 15 years from now, just go into the dumps. So I don't know if you would.
I think that'd be an HOA.
There's an HOA.
Yeah. All the maintenance for the landscaping would be protected. Yeah.
Yeah, the HOAs, and they actually have quite a bit of teeth, honestly. It's kind of surprising, like when
It's
an
scary.
HOA, and that's why it's important to have the owners control it, because they actually can control what happens in the community.
Having been on an HOA board for years, the legislature is taking a lot of power away from the HOAs though currently. And HOAs are only as effective as the residents serving on the boards.
Yeah.
I would like to see significantly less condos. I think we have plenty of those. I don't think we have the room in our city. I think it changes. I'm talking about space. I'd rather see more townhomes. Because I live in a neighborhood with townhomes, and if they were condos, the problems would be significantly more. And we live in a nice neighborhood, and there are drug problems in our townhomes.
The supply, it's the supply and demand. I want to increase the supply of single family homes and townhomes, and hopefully lower the price a little bit.
Yeah. Obviously, everybody here knows, you know, how this works. We're just here like trying to present
Right.
something. We know you guys have the discretion, but one thing I'll say, and these are just ballpark numbers. I hate throwing out numbers, but they are useful. So the condos, we're thinking those will sell for about $300,000. The townhomes, roughly $400,000. Once you move to single family, I actually can't even speak to that, but
Right.
you can imagine upper 400s. So just in terms of affordability,
That's what condos are.
and I'm definitely not saying no. I'm not. I mean, if you guys think that there needs to be more townhomes, we're gonna do more townhomes. But I will say, like, you know, a $300,000 condo with 7% interest rates. I mean, that's gonna be roughly $2,000 a month payment. It's like.
But I'm not just thinking about the affordability. I'm thinking about, the density, the crowds, the problems that high density presents. Our police force is already so busy with all of our other high density areas. They're there constantly. And it doesn't matter. I mean, rentals might have more prevalent contribute more to that problem, but it's owner occupied people too. So I think I'm not a fan of the high density condos at all. I think we have plenty of them. We've done our part. We don't need any more. I think townhomes and single family homes are the way to go.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm tired of all the 3-bedroom homes because
I know they're all pretty.
it's restricting families and restricting them to a small amount of space. We need 4 bedrooms.
Okay.
Can I have Robert, can you come up and explain what that little discussion we had about condos? Because I came in and I was like all over you about it. And you were telling me because of where this is at, you remember that conversation?
Well, and also the 3-bedroom homes, the market is so super saturated with 3-bedroom homes. We don't need any more of those. We need more.
Well,
bedrooms.
let me just speak to this and say, we need more of everything.
Exactly.
As our community grows, it's important to have a large amount of everything. Because we have different families and different individuals that need different things at different times. And so having a mix of housing types is really, really important as a community grows, because it allows people to stay in the community that they want to be in. So I'm going to go on a tangent just really quickly and say that I was at the Home Builders Association today at the Government Affairs meeting. And I got on my soapbox a little bit because the development community was kind of coming after cities and saying they need smaller houses and smaller lots and things like that. And I pushed back a little bit to say, well, we're getting smaller lots, but we're not necessarily getting smaller houses. We're getting 3,000 square foot homes on 4,000 square foot lots, and that's not helping affordability, which is what a lot of things are being done in the name of. But the other thing that I pushed back on was that this gospel of needing each type of housing, and each of them serve a purpose, and each of them are very important. And having 4-bedroom, 3,000 square foot homes are just as important as a 3-bedroom condo. And the data support that, because our household size is shrinking. And so we need to accommodate that and make sure that the market is going for it.
Which is unfortunate.
It
is.
It is unfortunate,
But
it's the reality.
When I say 4-bedroom home, I'm not saying 3,000 square foot home. I grew up in a 4-bedroom house and it was 1427.
Right, and that's exactly what I told.
We have lost the good floor plans. You walk in straight into the kitchen. It's a horrible design. And they're restricting family growth to 3-bedroom home. We need 4-bedroom home, Rambler style starter homes. But we're getting these little tiny houses with 3-bedroom and they're so small, they might as well be attached townhomes. We're seeing all the same stuff. We've got plenty of those.
So, Tyler and Robert, one thing that I think protects us against compartmentalizing certain issues and problems we see is mix up these subdivisions a little bit more, so that way we don't have the condo side and the townhome side and the fancy homes over here. We truly want our kids to go to school and to church and to play together. That improves upward mobility. When we get in trouble is when we build these projects in one corner of a town where it's only all high density. And then we build all the nice houses over here. These two lifestyles never interact, and it keeps certain people down.
Well, I feel like we don't have anything in between.
Well, we need to mix this and do a lot of in between, absolutely. So I think mixed developments could go a long way in helping the long-term viability of our city.
Right, we agree, and that was one of the comments that we had as staff. And just to say, there is a lot of compartmentalization in this plan. And we talk a lot about architectural relief, that sometimes we need a little bit of relief as far as building structure and differentiation between different types of housing within that type of development as well.
And also socioeconomic relief.
We don't want to build bigger to the wall.
Right.
But maybe
Those are
to
gonna happen no matter where you.
Well, yeah.
maybe to Councilmember Hyatt's point, one thing that we were just taking into consideration was the context of the site and this property along here, that there's a railroad to the west, there's a freeway to the east. And how does that all work? You have higher density to the north and what would essentially one day be a little bit higher density area to the south as the 12400 interchange would develop into the future. And just thinking, how do those geographic situations play into the type of housing that we would see in the area?
Well, I could see, so when you keep coming farther south, because the railroad tracks get way farther west, and so is the freeways getting farther east, then you could do more, like that property on 10,000 there. You could do more houses there.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what we envisioned, that there would be a middle section and then it would,
Because it's pretty skinny right there where they have to work with, and what he was talking about is what we have to prepare for these 63,000 people that are gonna live here. And he's actually talking about put more people in an area like that, so you have more open space for people to use. So you're not filling up all of the open space with houses and things. You're actually gonna have open space for these, how did you explain it? So you put them all together, and then you have the open space so that they can go enjoy the open space. I don't know, it's how all the other cities have been building the last 20 years. Because they try and keep their open space, and it's a big open space, but they're kind of close together. I mean, they're the 4,000 square foot yard, with the 2-story, 5-bedroom house on it, But they've got their big open space that they have with it.
See, I'm okay reducing some of the open space and increasing some of the space between the homes to allow for a little bit bigger yards, RV pads, that kind of stuff. Because here in Utah, we like our trucks, we like our toys, and that's why we have everything parked on the side of the roads. It's because we have this huge house, like you mentioned, that takes up a whole lot, right? And so for me, and then I'm going to be done talking, so we can move on. But I want to see wider roads, and then maybe look at mixing up the compartmentalization of this and mixing the type of living together, but still holding strong to the idea of phasing to single family homes.
Yeah, got it. And we're here for this feedback. Like, we're just trying to do this the right way.
And
Where
we
we
really
don't
appreciate you coming to us on these.
So,
sections
and I think-
like this is wonderful.
I think that's all good.
Does that give you some guidance then?
So
It
I
does, yeah.
Yeah, I got a few questions. So where's that main road gonna go from the Red Bridge down to 12,400? Where's that go?
This is 1950.
So that'll be the main drag through there.
Yeah, this is 1950, and then what's the other one? 17 is over here somewhere.
Okay.
17's the big one, is it?
17's the one that's there. That's the
Frontage
front.
road.
Right, right.
17's the one that's there now.
So that's a 5-lane road, right? It's 107 feet.
No, it's a local road, 1,700.
Oh, we're talking about the new one, the new one.
1950 feet.
1950 is the 5
So
lane.
1950 will be
Just a collector.
Just a collector.
Right, okay, because there can be a lot of traffic on that road.
And just an update on that, I know like this has kind of been, I think most of you know, we own like another 100 and some acres just south of here that
Yep.
we want to do for a separate community. We actually finally just bought the chunk of land that we need to build that road all the way through, so. It's something pretty-
That's good news.
Yeah. Yeah.
That road terminal will come out on 12,000.
Yeah, we now can control the whole thing, so.
That's been
I'm the only one that thought that was
locked down for a while.
Yeah.
So I know besides,
We didn't buy the people from Wyoming, we got the one, we bought that one next to it,
It just
and
goes like this.
yeah, we met with Travis and Jonathan, we feel like we can put a slight curve in the road and it'll be good,
so I know staff had some ideas on this. I wonder if we could get staff to tell us what some of their thoughts were.
So, planning comments, Jill had a few on here, but Robert's already addressed what we talked about. Sorry. Robert's already addressed what we talked about with integrating some of these more. That was the primary one. Jill, what were your comments on here?
Well, I Yeah, I can't read that small.
So I think you had some, some of the road things and some where the amenities were, I think somebody had some things about that, so.
I think my primary concern is the applicant is asking for an amendment or will be asking for an amendment through the South Meadows plan. So I think that's something that just as far as context is this development that they're proposing or the layout that they're showing has additional units than what the current plan shows. So that's part of the request is. And so looking at that and looking at the number of units that the current plan would allow versus what is being proposed, I feel like it needs to be highly amenitized in this area. I mean, if you're putting more units, additional population, where are those individuals going to go to recreate?
Yeah, I just say.
Sounds like you're agreeing, Tyler, right? Just put where it's
Yeah.
supposed to be.
The solution to that, both planning and applicant is, let's stick to our plan.
Yeah.
Let's not trade density for amenities that don't get used as much as they should or could.
So that was, I mean, I had some other comments as far as connectivity with roads and, making sure that there's access to, other parcels in the area. But I think, the one that, I wanted to see more from the applicant is demonstrate, how you're going to provide additional benefit to the city in order to accommodate the additional unit.
So
Thanks,
that
Joe.
road punching all the way through, could that be? Cause that would solve a lot of problems.
Well, access is just a typical,
Well, it
it's just
pulls
a typical requirement of any development.
It is just pull those big rigs off that road where we get 50 complaints. They have to do that.
And they have to do that anyway, that just happens per parcel, you could look at it as a benefit that they've been able to solve that issue, in order to open up a better circulation for this entire area. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that there was an understanding that there's a current base with the plan, there would be additional units, and how do we make sure that there's that, conversation and that negotiation and make sure that there's gonna be, ample benefits to the community once these homes are built.
And staff and all of us have, well, especially staff, worked hard on those plans. Let's stick to them. Let's not change them all the time to increase density especially.
So I would like you to look at just staying with the density that's already approved and see if you can do something that way too, instead of increasing density, because it seems like everybody comes in and wants increased density.
Speaking to that a little bit, I know that Robert's mentioned this with you before, and we talked about this in the last meeting, but our thought process is we want to potentially see a little more density here because it's going to be much more difficult to get that density past the railroad tracks. And then this is really, Tyler's project here is phasing the density to go down as it goes further south. And then as it gets closer to that 12,400, they would potentially get higher density too. So this is kind of a intermittent, I don't know what the word is, kind of middle ground density between Red Ridge and what potentially could be higher density at that 12,400. And that's our logic, is we can get the infrastructure here. We talked earlier about the disconnection and how difficult it is to get infrastructure out there. And so our logic is, let's put the infrastructure where it's easy to put it. Let's put the density where it's easy to put it. And so, yes, that plan exists and we've had it for several years, but we feel as if we're adding density, this is probably a better place than across the tracks, for example.
But if that does not jive with you, I mean, that's okay. Our job is to implement what.
So for me, that does not jive with me. We've got so much density in Red Ridge. We've got so much density coming in the station area plan. I think we should stick to our area specific plan in this case.
And my argument is I would trade out the density, but I want that road to go through before the construction starts, which is that's a financial burden on Whitehorse to run that road through 150 acres of land that they're not going to develop right now. But it would give us that transportation flow that I feel that area is going to desperately need before.
They still only have to do it on one side.
On one side.
Because the other side, they don't own yours, except for that Spencer part.
does it go
They
down through the
own a
middle
lot
of
of it, right through the middle of a lot of the property.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Well, it would have to be looked at and see, but I mean, that's,
Because the other side, they don't own.
cause it's not, we're not looking at a huge, density increase right there. I mean, what is it?
So this right here, you can see on the screen now, this Hyatt Creek, this is, about 10, I believe. Across from that,
What does the plan say it's supposed to be then?
that's what's in the plan. This area right here, Tyler came in about 2 years ago and did the same 10-unit density, but willfully reduced it to a 6-unit per acre.
Right.
And so this would potentially be requested to change for part of this project that he's proposing. And then as we go south, if my fingers will let it slide. As we go south, this would potentially change because this is all in the plan right now as 3 to 5 units per acre.
So I guess one thing I look at is so we do this and then we'll get the houses below and we start the transition, but then we'll still want to make smaller lots and increase density, and I just see it kind of a perpetual thing that just keeps happening, so.
One thing I just wanted to mention is, just kind of going along, like, some of the feedback, I think we got similar feedback last time, was just a recognition that we're asking for more density here, and kind of what are we willing to offer, and I think that's why we were asking, you know, what do you guys want to see here, what can we do, which is kind of why, and maybe I should have done a better job of pointing out, we do feel like we tried to monetize this pretty highly, there we go. What we do wanna do, is build a clubhouse and pool. I know we've talked about a dog park quite a bit, but what we're proposing here, pickleball courts, this entire area is a stream. We're trying to build a trail that goes along that, just so like you talked about, there's walkability, it's connected. So I think that's kind of, our, I guess, approach is we are asking for more density, but we're trying to offer, I think what we're required to do is like the clubhouse and some shade structures. But we're really want to build whatever we need to so that it's a nice community, so.
I think ultimately Tyler's trying to bring this to us so that he can see what you're comfortable with and what they're wanting and willing to do. Obviously, right now, as it stands, this gray area up in the top is already approved. This area right here is approved for 6 units to the acre, which means that he can put about 100, I think it was 100 townhomes, is that what it was originally planned?
No, I think that's quite a bit less than
90
that.
something, yeah. But anyways, down here was like the 3 to 5 units per acre, and that's what can be done in the plan right now. Obviously, with his potential to request a change, he's basically wanting to do some give and take here to hear what you're willing to give him and what he's gonna need to do to get that.
I do think your comments are pretty consistent with, like, so saying fewer condos. Yeah, a condo is a higher dense product than a townhome, so putting more townhomes in here does bring the density down, so to me, all these comments are consistent, and this is what we're, again, what we're here for.
So you're looking to go from 3 to 5, which is approved basically now, to basically 10.
Yeah,
That's your plan, so
This
you're,
right here is about.
you're more than double. Yeah, so.
Across. And I will say one thing, and I think I mentioned this last time, but, usually with a change like that, that is actually a pretty big deal on the city's infrastructure. And so we spent a lot of time, we actually hired the city's consultant for engineering, and we had them study this entire area and the city's system and just make sure that if we were to do this, that it wouldn't have a negative impact. And they said, yes, the city's infrastructure can support this. Of course, in the future, there are going to be projects that we'll have to do to upsize the infrastructure, like I think a sewer line to the north of here. I think it's like after we build a couple thousand units here, we'll have to do a project, but we just wanted to make sure that what we were asking for could actually be supported, and That's what I came back.
What size is the single family lots?
We did two different, just so they're not all just the same house. The smallest ones are 4,000, the bigger ones are 4,800, so.
So I'm just thinking out loud here because this is a transition, but we're going from 10 to single family. And there is no other transition. So what happens if you went from your 10 and did something in there, some, the smaller lots, single family, and then went to some bigger single family, just kind of transition it that way instead of trying to go from 10 to single family.
Yeah, I'm not much of an artist. I'll just have to try to blend that feedback with Rowley's comment about like mixing it together. It does become pretty hard to get.
You're
You
smart,
can
you can do it.
Yeah, I'll take a shot. So,
Okay, have you got what you want?
yeah, that's good.
Thank you for approaching us and talking to us before the fact and
Yeah.
helping us steer it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next one is G, would like to adjourn to a closed meeting.
Mayor, I motion that we adjourn to a closed meeting, November 6th at 8:49 PM.
Okay, so there has been a motion and a second.
To discuss real estate purchase, exchange, sale, and lease of real property.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, roll call vote, starting with Council Christie.
Yes.
Council Hewlett.
Yes.
Council Rowley.
Yes.
Council Moss.
Yes.
Okay.
Residents,